why he's all down in the dumps and all. It's like we had divination there. It's like, oh, so which one is going to die this year? Hello everyone, welcome to episode 29 of the Audiobook Club podcast. I'm Jonathan, hosting today's episode. I'm joined by the three others. If you want to introduce yourselves, guys, the others.
Hello.
I'm Michael.
I'm Stephen. I'm back this time.
Stephen is here this time, yeah. So today is basically our second year anniversary episode, although this is a bit past the second. We're now into our third year of doing the podcast. And as is tradition, or as we've made tradition on this podcast, we will be covering a Harry Potter book. So this will be Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. So this is the third book in J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter series. Hopefully everyone listened to this podcast has heard of these books before. I'm pretty sure they will have. But if you haven't, they're in for a treat. So this book in particular is, as I mentioned, Harry's third year at Hogwarts. It focuses mainly around the release of a prisoner named Sirius Black from Askaban prison, and that's kind of like the beginning of the story, and what's the actual centerpiece of the story is about this figure, Sirius Black. We also get new magical creatures in this book called Dementors, which are these scary, cloaked, flying, they suck the life out of the situation or whatever. They're just like ultimate evil. So we get those coming into it, and this, in general, this book it takes a very dark turn. So I think like the first two Harry Potters are, very, very lighthearted and, all very magical and all, whereas all of a sudden you have the third book and it's just the darkness, and especially when you watch the movie, there's big noticeable changes there. And so no one actually chose this book. This is just because this is our third year, and we're just going to make this a thing where we cover a Harry Potter book on our yearly anniversary. So we'll just go right on here to high level thoughts and review of the book. So I'll start with myself, I guess, and then I'll go over to the other guys. But for myself, I love this book. Just love the whole Harry Potter series, but I think this book in particular is where things really just start to get really good in the Harry Potter series. I think like the dark change or the dark twists of like how much different this book is to the first two is it's just such a brilliant change. And it's just kind of like, I think it's suited to this because it is like you're following children as they kind of mature. And I feel like although this is a very sudden change, I feel like the book then from here on just gets more and more mature as the three main protagonists get more mature. But yeah, I really love the darkness in this book and the whole mystery surrounding Sirius Black, and the Dementors too are just like, the Dementors are almost like the villain in this book, because Sirius Black doesn't really appear until the end. Sirius Black's like the conceptual villain, but hasn't actually done anything directly to Harry or anybody else yet in this book until he gets closer to the end. But the Dementors are kind of this constant threat throughout the book, and something that Harry encounters many times, and I just think they're just such a brilliant idea, like that they're just like this, they just like suck off.
Jesus.
There's the podcast.
that they now I can't think of how to phrase this.
They just cause fear.
They take all the goodness out of your emotions. They feed on the good emotions and just leave you with all the bad emotions. And obviously for Harry, he has a very traumatic childhood and his parents getting murdered, so it affects him the most out of anyone. But a lot of this is about him struggling with that, and how can he defend himself, and why, him discovering why is he affected and other people aren't as affected as much by them, and why they seem to target him. So you find out a lot of like backstory about like, what actually went on with like Harry's parents and stuff like that in this book. And yeah, I just think it's just a great, just a lot of stuff cleared up and like a lot of new things set up for future books as well. But yeah, overall, I just absolutely love this book. So we'll move, maybe I'll go to Michael first, see what's your high level thoughts about this book, and any you know that you've probably read and listened to this book so many times. So what's your first encounter with this book, and what was it like this time around?
Yeah, I can't really remember the first time too well. I actually remember watching the movie more than I remember reading the book, and I remember being very surprised by the tonal shift and everything that the movie took. I really last time we did the Harry Potter book, the Harry Potter Chamber of Secrets, I gave that a 4, and as we established last episode on our rating system, that just means good. So that just means it was moderately positive, which might seem low to score a Harry Potter book. I'm definitely a lot higher on this. I would even say this is the best Harry Potter book so far out of the 3.
I think Chamber's the weakest one, but go ahead.
Yeah. As you said, Jonathan, it's a thing that's often said about the Harry Potter series that it matures with the characters, and you kind of go on that journey, which there's really a big step up in this book. I love the gothic feel and the atmosphere. I love the new characters that are introduced in this book, like Sirius Black, who in this book we get more development of him throughout the series, but in this book he's kind of mangy and manic and crazy. That's most of what we know about him, but he's quite a scary character too. Before something else is revealed later in the plot that we'll touch on. And obviously other character Lupin as well is introduced, who I think is another great character. He's constantly described as being very run down with shabby clothes and everything, and I think he's a great addition to the Harry Potter series. We also get Professor Trelawney, who is kind of like a comic relief character in this. We don't get too much of her that she becomes annoying. I think we just get about enough of her that she's tolerable. And we also get some new settings in this book as well. We get Askaban. Obviously, we don't actually see it through the character's eyes, but we get a lot of descriptions of it and a lot of history of it. And it brings this new element to the entire world of Harry Potter, and it affects the series throughout. I think it's a great addition from this point forward. We also see a new setting in terms of Hogsmeade, which is the wizarding village within the vicinity of Hogwarts. Again, a great addition to the series. It's very magical. It's one of the most iconic places within the series. It becomes, obviously because of the sweets and the chocolate and everything, it's that kind of wish fulfillment element of Harry Potter, which is such an important part of Harry Potter as well. The plot, and this, I really like that it is not Voldemort-centric. It's probably the only book in the series where the main antagonist isn't Voldemort or a version of Voldemort. It's the Dementors, really, as you said. Well, we kind of have the red herring for a while, but it kind of becomes the Dementors. And there's obviously some subplots within this too. We have the Buckbeak whole trial. We have Ron and Hermione falling out over the whole scabbard and what do you call Hermione's cap again? Crookshanks, yeah, that whole feud. And I think what the real strength of this book is, Harry's character arc is really, really strong within this. I think the journey he goes on, having to confront his past and then having to learn the spell through Lupin, having to kind of face his fears, it gives this such a strong thematic core that I think wasn't as present in like Chamber of Secrets, and I think it pushes that up an extra bit. And as you refer to, the backstory comes in, we learn more about the Marauders and things like that, and I think that really bolsters out, and I think Rowling is so good at the backstory that she brings in throughout the series, and it really starts here, and I think it really brings a lot to it. And the new magical elements that are introduced in this, the Dementors, which are like they're like a stand-in for Rowling's depression, and you can kind of feel that they are just this monsters who, you know, they take all the joy out of everything, and they were very scary when I first watched the movie and read the book, and I still think they're a really cool antagonist and a cool magical creature. And then obviously we have the Hippogriff as another magical element introduced here, which is another very iconic thing within the Harry Potter world, another cool beast. And then we have new spells like and one of the most famous Harry Potter spells is the Expecto Patronum. I mean, this is so core to the Harry Potter world that it's like, after you get your house, the next thing that you want to know is what your Patronus is. It's so core to what Harry Potter is. So I think so many elements were brought into this book, and it expands on the universe in such a big way, and it's such a cool gothic, atmospheric novel, and I think it's just so much better than its predecessors, I think, in basically every way. So yeah, I really loved this book.
Yeah, that was very good summary there. Yeah, I just didn't mention about like the introduction of like Lupin and stuff. I completely agree too. I absolutely love like Lupin in this, and I think like the whole point of Lupin as well is that, you know, they love him as a defense against the dark arts teacher. So I think the addition of him in this as well is absolutely brilliant. So yeah, we'll move over to you next, Stephen. What was your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't really have much to add after Michael. I kind of agree with most of the things that he said, but I do love the lore building in this book. I think it does really does like put it a step up from the last two books and the tone and everything. There's a lot of stuff introduced in this one that kind of permeate the rest of the series, like the Marauders map and the Marauders, like Michael was saying, and even stuff like animaguses and stuff like that. You know, it's all comes from here, and it really just kicks it into another gear. A lot of the backstory building stuff too, with the all the characters from the past, all the stuff that happened before Harry's parents were killed and all that that's revealed was really interesting. I think I don't know where it rates in my hierarchy of all the books, but it's definitely up there, I think. Yeah,
like the back stuff, like in terms of Harry's parents, so it's like before it was just like this dark wizard just murdered them. You don't really know much, but now you kind of get glimpses of like there was a war going on, essentially.
Yeah, you get there's a war going on. They went into hiding for still unknown reasons. Voldemort was trying to kill them for we don't know why. But you hear like even small things, like you get like name drops of spells that like the Fidelius charm to hide them and stuff. It just builds it all out a bit more and like makes it more interesting for me. And the idea of secret keepers and all this stuff.
And just also to be aware, just between you and Michael, so far there's been 4 mentions of he who shall not be named. So just make sure.
I'm not scared of him, Johnny. You fucking come near me, Baldy. No fist bastard.
Here, we don't know he's baldy or not yet. All right.
Spoilers.
Yeah, cool. Jason, what about you?
If you had asked me before listening to this book, I would have probably said I think it's one of my favourites. Although I did find myself this time round, I wouldn't say struggling, but I do feel like there were some flaws, some things I sort of struggled with at times with the book, but I still do appreciate the change in the tone. I appreciate the sort of Voldemort taking a backseat in this book. I still think I had a good time with the book, but I didn't hold up to the memory of what I had of it, although it has been a long time since I've read the book or watched the movie prior to this. But yeah, it was surprising to me. I thought I probably would have had a better time of it than I did have, actually. But I'm looking forward to chat about, have the differing views of everyone.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Like I actually had a very similar experience with watching the movie for this. Like I remember I used to absolutely love the third movie, and then because of reading this book or listening to the book, it's kind of changed my perception a wee bit on the third movie. But again, we'll dive into that later. But yeah, interesting.
The movie's really good, but I do think there's a lot of things missing. A lot of small things missing, like
that's exactly it.
Yeah, like a lot of the Scabber stuff is cut.
There's a lot of stuff about the movie, as well.
There's one very universe breaking. Well, it breaks a lot of the logic of the series going forth to a certain element. I'm sure you know what I'm referring to towards the end of the story, but because it's in spoiler territory, we'll talk about that when it gets brought up.
Yeah, so kind of got the high level summaries there. We'll maybe delve more into it now. So the way I'm just going to go through it is kind of grouped some chapters together. I'll kind of go through 2 or 3 chapters, give a wee short description of them, and then we'll dive into it. So chapter 1, titled Owlpost. So this is basically Harry just receiving some gifts for his birthday. So Harry's birthday always is at just before the start of the school year, and he's always at the Dursleys, who, as we know, treat him like crap and don't buy him anything. I think I'm not sure if it's this book, but he gets like one of the Dudley's old socks or something, like in the previous years.
He gets so basically at Christmas one time. I think that was funny.
Yeah, that was probably a lot of money back in freaking like 19 whenever the third or second book was.
This was 99 anyway, this book.
I remember how much pound you took these spazzers would freaking get you, and a big massive bag filled, like, so.
That's fair enough.
But anyway, Yeah, so Harry receives some presents from Ron and Hermione. So from Ron, he gets what's called a sneakoscope. So the sneakoscope isn't actually mentioned in the movie. This is one of the small things that I think was interesting, because the sneakoscope actually has a bit of foreshadowing about it. So basically, is like this glass top that is essentially will light up and kind of start making some whistling sounds and some kind of alert whenever somebody nearby is doing something dishonest or doing something wrong. So obviously this is a very specific item and is already foreshadowing that there must be something dishonest going on around Harry. And I think initially when he has it, it basically is going off, not at this point, but like earlier in the book, and then he thinks it's broken, and then later on he finds out that it actually wasn't. But yeah, I think it was an interesting wee element that was left out of the movie. I guess because it would have just been one wee scene or something of just the spinning top or something. But
yeah, I think the sneakoscope comes up a lot as in the later books too. It just gets shoehorned in at times. But I think in the last film it appears, right? He has it, but it's like what even is that? It's never mentioned before, sort of thing. So
yeah, and from Hermione gets like a broomstick servicing kit, which what I found about this book, there's a wild lot about Quidditch in this book. Like the movie doesn't really have much of the Quidditch. Like I think there's like one big Quidditch match, but like this book is like really focused around like Gryffindor trying to win the Quidditch Cup.
And Oliver Wood gets a lot of screen
time.
Yeah,
he gets a wild hard time, hey, poor guy.
Yeah, so I think that's one thing we'll probably discuss more about. But yeah, it's one major difference I think is like the focus on Quidditch. But yes, he gets the broom servicing kit from Hermione, and then he gets like a letter from Hogwarts to basically like say about the new school year and what books he needs and stuff like that. And he also gets like a book from Hagrid, doesn't he? It's like the monster. I'm not sure if that was here he got, because in the movie he doesn't get this until he gets to the Lakery Cauldron. But
I think he does.
Yeah, so it's basically just opening up, setting the tone. And then second chapter is Aunt Marge's big mistake. So basically Uncle Durnan has a sister who also hates Harry, probably even more so than the Dursleys themselves. And basically every time she comes over, like she fucking rips into Harry and insults him or says bad things about him and treats him like shit. And basically she takes it a bit too far here and insults like his mother and father, and Harry accidentally inflates her and she blows up like a balloon and then flies off. So basically the issue here is that Harry is using magic outside of school, which is not allowed by underage wizards. So this kind of creates this conflict then in Harry's mind that, God, he's done this again, because in the previous book he also got in trouble for this. So it's like now he's going to get expelled or whatever, or he's going to be in serious bother. So he's this is one of the things that going across his mind for a bit. But anyway, Harry then leaves the house after this, after all the chaos of the follow-up of blowing up his aunt. And then he is walking through the dark street, and he's kind of sees a figure of like a dog or a wolf or something. He's not quite sure what it is. And then just as that's happening, the night bus rolls up, almost takes him out, but he falls back, I think, because he's of surprise of the dog or the wolf figure. But yeah, the night bus shows up, and it's basically this bus that shows up for wizards in need. And then Harry gets on, and he doesn't want anyone to know who he is, so he says that he's Neville Longbottom, and then the bus basically takes him to the Leaky Cauldron in London, which is basically him then starting to get into the magic world then. So we'll cut there and see what we thought about these open few chapters. So we'll go over to you, Michael, again first.
Yeah, I can't remember if it was last Harry Potter episode or the episode before where I referred to how the Dursleys are cartoonishly evil at times. And it's funny having to up the ante on that, but the way that Rowling does it in this book is Marge is brought on and she is even worse than what they are. In fact, they have to pretend that they're being more abusive than they actually are to Harry just to impress her. It's like, are they using the cane? Yeah. It's very horrible. If this was an isolation, if you didn't know Harry was magic and going to wizard school. But I thought it was a pretty good opening to again get you on a bit of sympathy for Harry and to show you again what a horrible living situation he has when he's not at Hogwarts. The night bus. I think that's a great part of this story as well. It's just so random, and it's just one of those eccentric things in the wizarding world, thinking, why does this really exist? But it's just these random things that just do exist within this world, and it gives it that sense of wonder. and it's just so chaotic. I think it describes how like the beds are sliding everywhere and buildings and lampposts and stuff are having to move out of the way, and it's having to squeeze through things and stuff like that. And yeah, it's very chaotic, and it's a good fun part of the book, and I quite like they don't get a lot of time in it, but what we learn of Stan and Ernie, and then obviously we go on to and then Harry obviously meets up with everybody in the Leaky Cauldron. But yeah, I think it's a pretty good opening. You know, it's up there with the other two.
Yeah, it's got a bit of the bad treatment from the Dursley, and then Harry having some mad journey to closer to Hogwarts, basically, which is more or less what happens in all the books. Yeah, cool. Stephen, what about you?
Yeah, I like the opening in this. I really like the opening chapters in these books because you get a lot of like wee tiny small things. I think it's particularly they're cut from the film, right? Like particularly in the next book, there's a good scene, but all the stuff about it just expanded a bit more. You know, one thing I just wanted to mention was that one of the things Harry gets from Hogwarts is a permission form that he has to get signed, and that's part of the sort of tension at the start. Yeah, so yeah, I think it's a really solid opening. It sort of sets the tone that it's a bit darker, you know, with Harry basically breaking the law and probably damaging his not quite aunt for the rest of her life, and you know he's probably going to get expelled and all this. And
yeah. Jason, what about you?
This is probably where sort of controversially I didn't really like the opening. I just thought it dragged a bit. I thought, to be honest, I didn't think the whole sequence of Marge and Harry trying to get the permission slip signed and the night bus needed to take like up, I think it was like nearly 2 hours or something of the book. Just felt like it went on a bit too long. I did like the night bus. I like the sort of hecticness of the night bus, but definitely the stuff of the Aunt Marge and everything. It just felt like more of the same from the previous 2 books to me, and it didn't really do much to actually get me pumped for the story. If anything, I was more just like, hurry up, you know.
Hurry up, Stephen Fry.
Stephen Fry, just come on. Film hurried it up. No, I probably did struggle a bit with the opening, I'll be honest with you. That was actually one of my bigger flaws with the book. And one of the things I did want to talk about was just how I felt it was just dragged on a bit. Really is the only way I can sort of put it.
Yeah, I think the openings, all of the openings do take their time, but I don't know. I kind of like it. I just like experiencing these characters out of Hogwarts. It's
I'm the same.
I especially like. Obviously, we haven't got to the Weasley stuff, like, but I love. We always get the most Weasley stuff, especially the wider family with Arthur and what do you call the mum again?
Molly.
Yeah, Arthur and Molly. We get more stuff with them, you know, when it only usually comes in this chapter. And I think they're a lot of like the heart of the entire series too. So, but we haven't covered that yet. But that's on the next chapter, really.
Yeah. So one thing there that I didn't mention as well that just kind of happens in the night bus is that Harry basically first kind of sees Sirius Black on like a newspaper. I think in the book, Sirius Black does appear on the TV as well in the Dursley's house.
That's what I was going to mention as well. Yeah, he's on the Muggle news first. He's just a mass murderer who's supposed to be carrying a gun.
So yeah, I think that's like basically Fudge now. So basically, after he gets off the night bus, Fudge, who is the Minister of Magic, is the first person like Harry encounters just as he's getting off the bus, and he more or less explains, but that the wizard has been in touch with the Muggle Prime Minister to tell him that there's this dangerous wizard on the list. Just make sure people are, we need to find him. So if people see him, just kind of they get the word out there amongst the Muggles as well. But obviously they don't want to know that he's a magician or whatever, or a wizard. So they need to said he's basically just a lunatic with a gun or something. But yeah, just to bring that up. So Harry first kind of is introduced to Sirius Black, or the bus driver is the first, or not the bus driver, but the wee kind of helper on the bus. Conductor, yes. He's the one that kind of describes Sirius Black as this murderer, that's this dark wizard that's like escaped from Askaban, and like that he was the first person that's ever done it on. He's, which is kind of like supposed to more or less make him seem even more dangerous, because like how the hell did he get out of this place that was, it's like the first person that got out of what do you call it, Alcatraz prison or something like that, the unescapable prison.
I think Alcatraz is a direct
it's like an island in the middle of the water. Yeah.
Alcatraz, Askaban sort of.
Yeah. So basically then Harry gets off, he talks with Cornelius Fudge, and just like always happens for Harry, and even I think there's justification of marriage, fair enough, but the fact that he did underage magic was no bother, and everything's okay, everything's been taken care of, the ante has been deflated, and Harry gets off with scot-free, as usually happens to Harry. I guess they always just make exceptions for him, but the minister basically says, if we sent everyone to Askaban who blew up their aunts, then we'd be sending everyone, so as if this thing happens all the time. But yeah, so basically Fudge tells Harry that he's grand, and then also kind of Harry gets a bit of wind about Sirius Black and stuff, and kind of knows that there's something connecting them, but he's not quite sure. No one actually really tells him anything. That's basically just until Arthur in a minute. But yeah, so in the I think there's, because Harry obviously left the Dursleys, he ran out basically. He's still got a few weeks of summer left, so he more or less spends the rest of his summer staying at the Leaky Cauldron and heading about Diagon Alley, and then eventually Ron and Hermione come, I think the last day before they're about to head to school, so he gets meeting up with them. And here is where Hermione buys a pet cat called Crookshanks. I think in the movie she just has it when she arrives, but like in the book it's actually, she goes to like a shop and by chance the cat jumps down on like the shopkeeper's head and she just wants it. And the cat Crookshanks, as Michael alluded to, has this basically this chase. It keeps going after Ron's pet rat Scabbers. And there's this whole conflict over the cat and the rats fighting, and then Hermione and Ron fighting as a result. And that happens continuously throughout the book, so we'll get more into that later. But yeah, there's the usual business around Diagon Alley, and then there's the whole thing with the Weasleys just before, I think when they're just heading to the train. And this is where Arthur Weasley basically tells Harry about like Sirius, that he's he basically tells Harry not to go looking for Sirius, but he's just told Harry that he's out trying to kill him, and Harry's like, why would I go looking for someone that's trying to kill me and all? So there's a bit of mystery there, but you do get a wee bit more about Sirius. But they're basically telling Harry, no matter what you hear, just stay away from him, like don't be trying to go after him, which again is foreshadowing for stuff that Harry's going to find out later in the book. And then we get on to probably one of the best scenes I think in this book is on the train. And the train suddenly comes to a stop when they kind of know something's up here because they're nowhere near Hogwarts yet. And this is where Harry first encounters a Dementor. So the Dementors are basically the guards of Azkaban prison, and because Sirius Black's escaped, they're on the lookout for him. And essentially Dumbledore tells them that they basically were searching the train for Sirius Black to make sure he hadn't snuck on. But while this Dementor's on searching, it's almost like an attack on Harry, but just kind of like it's being present. But like I think you get more of it in the movie, I feel, in the actual description here in the book, when it's actually trying to feed on Harry, I guess, because it's Harry's again one of them people. It's just like so much bad or anguish has happened in his past, so the Dementor just can't resist. He's just like
I don't think in the book he tries to feed on him. I think it's just its presence is there. It freaks everybody out. But he gets it worse, sort of thing.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Like I was like, why in the but maybe the movie, because it has to show something. People are obviously looking for a visual cue of like, if Harry just fainted in the movie, you'd be like, what just happened? But maybe had they convey that it's actually affecting him in some way. But yeah, basically Harry faints, and in the car that Harry, Ramon and Hermione in, there was a sleeping guy who's identified as Professor Lupin, and then he wakes up and drives the Dementor away. So yeah, then we go more or less head to Hogwarts after that. So we'll leave it there, and we'll jump over to Michael, see what your thoughts about this portion of the book was.
Yeah, again, I enjoyed this portion of the book. We also have in that section Harry overhears Molly and Arthur as well talking about Sirius, and is that when Arthur as well, he doesn't want Harry to go looking for Sirius Black.
Yeah.
So it introduces like that element of the mystery. What is the connection with Harry and Sirius? Obviously there is some, and even though we get to know Sirius, because we're like looking back on the series now, at the time I think Sirius is an extremely scary presence within this book. Just this really unhinged wizard.
Yeah, so supposedly a murderer. as well.
Yeah. I think, and he looks. Well, I suppose that's more talking about the movie, and the movie looks very deranged as well. And then the train scene, I think, I would agree with you, Jonathan. It's one of the best scenes in the book. The Dementors are just really great within this book. They kind of define this book, and not only just from being a cool magical thing, but they're kind of what's thematically resonant about this book. They're like at the core of everything, and the descriptions of them like being like corpse-like and everything, and kind of there's very little description like of their hands and everything, and then everything else is concealed. It gives this sense of what we're not seeing is even more horrific, so it's even scarier that way. Obviously, we're introduced to Lupin in this scene as well, but he's just sleeping at the start of the scene. Then he wakes up and gives Harry some. I think he gives everybody some chocolate, doesn't he? It's funny. I don't think like the movie ever explains that is an actual remedy. I think they just always give them chocolate, and I think when I first saw the movie, I assumed
it just says it'll help.
I just assumed it was because chocolate makes you feel a bit better, not that it was actually a remedy. But I think in terms of building up the two big bads of this story, Sirius Black and the Dementors, this part really sets the scene, and it sets up these as both really imposing things. Obviously, that relationship will change throughout the book, but right here, I think when you're reading this and when you're watching it, especially for the first time, you're in a different completely book than what the previous Harry Potter books were. Yeah,
definitely. Like just thinking there, like Lupin, he's just a man that's always got some chocolate on him. Like he just any time something's going wrong, Harry's arm gets cut off. Oh, here, just fucking have a wee bit of chocolate. Like. No worries, lad. But I think
we got a Cadbury here, man. I'll sort you right out.
The chocolate is like, isn't it like, because obviously who's ever sad when they're eating chocolate, so it's kind of like it gives you that wee bit of happiness again. So it brings like the happiness. It's not about like, see, I always think it was like, you would have, say after you get blood taken, you don't eat like some chocolate or something sweet to get your blood sugar back up.
That's right.
I always thought of it like scientific like that, but I think the book kind of clears that up, and it's kind of, it's like, you're getting happiness by eating something nice.
Yeah, because I think Madame Pomfrey in a scene after that, she does say a man who knows his magical remedies or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. Like they're like scared, the fear monsters. So like the remedy is to make you happier. So, chocolate.
Yeah.
On to you, Stephen. Then, what's your thoughts about these few chapters?
Yeah, I love these chapters. Like, just taking a different route than you guys took up. About the setting up the two villains and stuff. I think there's a lot of wee like foreshadowy bits in this section. Like, I think it's technically in the previous section, but the whole thing about the Weasleys going to Egypt and the newspaper cutting and all, and how Scabbers is in it. That ends up being very important later on for some of the plot, or the kickstart for the whole thing. But also that Scabbers is really sick. It's kind of a weird detail that's left on there. It sort of goes, you would think is the first lesson is kind of pointless, right? But it's actually key to the whole story. And the whole thing about Crookshanks targeting him, he's a rat, so a cat's going to want to go for him. But I'm not sure if it's you find out in the pet shop or if it's later on in the series, but you find out that Crookshank is like half cat, half Kneasel, I think it's called. And Kneasels are like these magical beasts that sort of can spot, sort of like a sneakoscope, they can spot when people are like being untruthful and stuff, or like hiding things. So that's a wee bit of foreshadowing there, and there's loads of stuff like that that crop up in this section, which I think just really enhances the story for me. I think before he gets on, when they're in the leaky cauldron with the Weasleys and everything, I think doesn't Harry overhear Mr. Weasley tell Molly that Sirius is after him?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you
mentioned that. Michael said that, yeah.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's yeah. There's the mystery side of that is really engaging as well. Like I said before, I like all the pre-Hogwarts chapters. I think they're all really good.
Cool. Jason, what did you hate? I mean, what did you think of this?
No, I think this is all fine at this stage. It was just his initial few chapters. No, I think these really picked up the story. I think, as Stephen sort of mentioned, between Stephen and Michael, between sort of overhearing the classic Harry Potter, just overhearing things
Yeah.
about Sirius Black and how he's after him. You know, that sort of builds attention. The Dementors on the train is actually a fairly scary scene. I think it is basically a horror at that point.
Yeah.
And just being introduced to Lupin for the first time, who we all know becomes a bit of a beloved character. And even, as Stephen mentioned, the sort of subtle foreshadowing of things about sort of Crookshanks and Scabbers chasing after Scabbers. Apologies. No, I think things really picked up those few chapters to really get the story going after a bit of a slow start for me.
Just before you move on to Jonathan to the next part, I just wanted to say on Stephen's point too about the foreshadowing. I think that is something that J.K. Rowling does so well throughout the entire series. Is just these little tiny things that seem inconsequential. Yeah, they seem like little random eccentric bits of a description, or they're there for just really no reason other than to flesh the world out. Then they become very significant and pay off later. I love when that happens throughout the series.
Yeah, there's a lot of it in this book too, particularly around Scabbers.
This book is all about foreshadowing and payoff. I think that's why I find it very satisfying.
For sure.
I mean, the next section is just all about foreshadowing, isn't it? Really?
Well, the new class. Yeah.
So after the train, they get back to Hogwarts. I think they've missed the sorting, but they get onto the main hall end for the feast and stuff. And basically, this is where Dumbledore tells them about the Dementors, that they'll be at all the entrances of Hogwarts until Sirius Black's caught. Because I guess again, this is more like at this point you know that Harry's in danger and stuff, and that Sirius might come to Hogwarts at some stage. So the Dementors are lying in wait essentially. But I think he gives a good description and stuff. Says it's not in the nature of a Dementor to be forgiven and stuff. It's like they can sense people that have either or like concealed by invisibility cloaks. Just kind of looks at Harry, which I think is quite a funny bit. So it's like, because I think it's only Ron, Hermione, and Harry that know about Harry's invisibility cloak, but obviously Dumbledore tells too. Yeah, then Harry, Ron, and Hermione go. Well, it's actually only Harry and Ron. I think this is a lot of foreshadow on this. Hermione has basically taken up like 10 subjects, which is a lot more or something than you should. She's got like far too much on her plate, and like Ron notices her timetable has like multiple classes at the same time, which again is something that's foreshadowing for how she's going to make it to all these classes. But Harry and Ron go to their first class, which is the new class that you only start taking in third year, which is divination, and that's taught by Professor Trelawney. So the thing I like about like divination is like this is divination's like mystic orb and future sight and all. And it's like this is seen as the ridiculous thing in the magic world, but it's also like a ridiculous thing in our world. Like so, it's funny like that they. I just thought it was such a funny addition that there's like a topic that's also they do with magic, but seen stupid in the magic world.
Yeah, she's basically a fortune teller. It's really funny.
Yeah, but yeah, so they go to that class and basically they're doing these tea leaves. So it's basically like you make a cup of tea and drink it or whatever, and then at the bottom you have the tea leaves left over, and there'll be some kind of image formed in them. And the class is about like reading the tea leaves. So Harry and Ron are paired up, and like Ron's having a look, and like basically this is as we've said, it's like utter bullshit all this, like Ron hasn't a clue what's going on, so he just kind of starts guessing at things. And then Trelawney comes over and she's like shocked by what she sees, and she basically says it's this thing called the Grim, and it's the picture of a wolf or a dog or something like that. And this again, I mentioned earlier that Harry's already seen like this black wolf or dog at some stage, and this is the second side of it. And it's like this basically means that you're going to die at some stage, which is a bit stupid of a prediction because like everyone's going to die at some stage. But like this, the Grim just says you're going to die, but it doesn't tell you when. This could be you're going to die in 100 years. Like, but again, this is the nature of divination. But I like then how they go to Professor McGonagall's class next, the Transfiguration, and it's like everyone's down in the dumps, and like Harry's worried about this, and like they're all like, Professor McGonagall's like, why he's all down in the dumps and all. It's like we had divination there. It's like, oh, so which one of these is going to die this year? It's like this happens every year, and it's like obviously the person hasn't died yet and all. But obviously with Harry and this thing with Sirius Black and all, it's always, I mean, every book it's always a possibility that Harry could die because he's always getting himself into danger, or it finds him. But yeah, it's funny that's like all the other teachers as well just like divination's just fucking full of shit as well. But yeah, but it's an interesting class. But yeah, I forgot to mention that in the class, I think Hermione just appears out of nowhere, and Ron's like, "Where the hell did you come out of?" Which you get a lot of throughout the book. Hermione's just like there all of a sudden. Ron's like you weren't there before, and yeah, this is like foreshadowing something. But it actually turns out that Hermione is not good at divination, so obviously Hermione's good at all the subjects, but because this is not a normal subject, it's not like something you can intellectually prepare for. It's just this. Trelawney says it's like you either have it or you don't. Like, so I think it's again just saying she could just say that everyone doesn't have it, and that's why you can't do what I do. Yeah, but again, it just adds to the bullshit and the humour of this.
Classic fortune teller move.
Exactly. And yeah, just moving on to the next class then, the first Defense Against the Dark Arts class of the year with Professor Lupin. And I absolutely love this scene, especially in the movie, but it's also pretty well, it's actually more fleshed out in the book. It's just in the movie you get to visually see these things, but the boggart is basically like a shape-shifting creature that takes form of like a person's worst fear. So they then have to learn about this spell that they have to use like laughter and stuff and turn it into something that's funny and then laugh at it, and the boggart is basically defeated by that. So you get like Ron, who's terrified of spiders, and the boggart will turn on this spider for him, and then he has to picture it doing something stupid, so it's like on roller skates or something like that. And like Neville is like terrified of Professor Snape, and then he has to like picture him in his grandmother's clothes. And then it comes around to Harry's turn to do it, and then Professor Lupin actually jumps in front of him to prevent it. I think in the book, Professor Lupin gets in front of him before anything happens, but in the movie you actually see a Dementor. Is that right?
I think it's all the way around.
That's
all the way around.
On the movie, you definitely the Dementors.
I think that is right, Johnny.
Yeah.
I know that is. There's nothing in the book. He stops him before anything happens.
He's annoyed that he didn't get a chance to do it.
Yeah. That's what, because I thought that was weird. Like I was like, in the book, in the book, you didn't get to see those Dementor, but I like the fact that like you got to see the Dementor, because then it adds to the conversation they have next about why was it not Lord Voldemort or whatever. But we'll get onto that in a minute. But yeah, like I like the fact that he did see the Dementor, but then when Lupin jumps in front of him anyway, it turns into what everyone describes as an orb, I think. But in the movie, you can clearly see what it is. It's like the shape of the moon. But we'll get on more to that as well. There's so much foreshadowing this. It's like we'll get onto that later.
Yeah, that's the first Lupin one.
Yeah, but yeah, that's the kind of the first foreshadowing for Lupin's character. Well, I guess you get the mention of his like he looks rough and all on the train and stuff like that, which is again is more foreshadowing about Professor Lupin. But yeah, Lupin jumps in front of it, and yeah, that's the end of the class essentially. So yeah, what's your thoughts on this? So go to you, Michael.
Yeah, so in the Chamber of Secrets episode, I kept saying how annoying Lockhart was. For some reason, I don't find Trelawney nearly as annoying. I think it's because probably just she's more sparing. The way I kind of wish Lockhart was. I think the comic relief character is fine if they're used in drips and drabs. So I do find the whole bit about divination quite funny. The fact that she has this crazy crystal lady teaching in Hogwarts, and all of it is she's just a big charlatan. I do find it very strange. I know this gets justified, and I think it's the Order of the Phoenix where we get justification of this, why she's hired in the first place, but I still find it very weird that she's teaching in Hogwarts.
It's mentioned at the end of this book.
Is it?
But it's not described until that one, yeah.
Oh, it's hinted at. Just
it's hinted at,
yeah. I still find it very weird, but when we do Order of the Phoenix, maybe we can dissect that more. And it's funny. Is it Lavender Brown, and who's the other character who's like really infatuated with her and thinks she's wonderful?
One of the Patel twins. I don't remember which one.
Yeah, I think that's quite a funny bit that is reoccurring through this book. The book is, I think this is one of probably the funnier books too. I like a lot of Harry and Ron's banter too. A lot of their back and forths, making fun of the tea leaves and everything about what they're saying. And then we go on to the McGonagall class, and she transforms into the cat, which she must only have done in front of them now in the books, because I know she does it in the first movie. And then she's surprised that nobody's impressed. And again, this is more hinting at what the Animagus and Wizard's abilities to transform, even though we have seen McGonagall do it in the prologue of Philosopher's Stone, but this is her doing it in front of them, and kind of it lingers on it more. They kind of give you the hint that it's going to be a bigger deal within this story. The Boggart class is one of the most enjoyable scenes too within this within this book. I loved reading about what it changed into to different things for people being a shapeshifter, like Pennywise from It, and Neville. It turns into Snape. That was a good moment too. Does the bullying part with like Snape giving Neville a hard time, has that happened too in this section?
I think that happens just before it. Yeah.
Yeah. Has the Toad part, did that happen yet? Where he Neville mixed the wrong potion and Hermione helps him because Snape is going to feed it to the Toad.
I can't remember, but I think they have maybe.
If that anyway, I'll just talk about that anyway. I think that is one of the reasons I don't think Snape is ever justified in the series, because he is such a bully for no reason.
Yeah,
and that is just horrible. Like basically going to poison somebody's pet because you don't like who their friends are, or basically what house they're in.
It's so fun. It's funny, like, because he tells Hermione not to help Neville, but he doesn't know that she did help him, even though she did, because he does it right then, and he's still like, "Yeah, I'm still poisoning that Toad."
Yeah, I know exactly.
F that Toad.
Yeah, that's a dead Toad. I do agree with what you said, Jonathan, about you preferring it to transform into the Dementor. I actually think that was a positive change too that the movie made, because I really love the talk about fear and everything that Harry and Lupin had afterwards, and I think that does add to it. But yeah, I think this section, again, just like this whole book, I really like it. I'm gonna get sick of saying that throughout this book. I don't really have any problems at all with this book until maybe near the end. There's some wee hints of logic, but when we get to the end, I'm looking forward to discussing that anyway.
Yeah, Stephen, what about you?
It's just really good, this section. I like all the new classes that we kind of see. Do we talk about care of magical creatures yet? Is that mentioned?
No, I don't think we did talk about it.
I might touch on it a wee bit, but anyway, so divination, I think, is a really nice wee addition. Obviously, it's like the fraudster subject. I think it's just a really nice addition. It's a subject. It's a comic relief subject, but it keeps coming back over and over, and you sort of get the sense that it's not all bullshit. Like, there's some of it is kind of real. Do you know? Particularly
because she does predict.
Yeah,
she does
do a couple of predictions that she is unaware of, which is even funnier. But yeah. But stuff like reading the tea leaves, and Harry's turns out to be a wolf or a dog's head, like the Grim. And he finds out it's called a Grim and everything, and he knows that he's seen a dog already once that's foreshadowed him almost getting knocked down, sort of thing.
How did you put those dog sound effects into that?
I know, it's good, wasn't
it? Jasper's just like, somebody said dog.
Is it dog?
I'm keeping this all in, by the way.
So then, yeah, the Boggart Defense Against the Dark Arts class. We finally get a good Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher. Obviously, we had Quirrell and Lockhart before, who were practically useless. Quirrell was pretending to be a bumbling scaredy cat, and Lockhart was Lockhart. So yeah, it's good section. We didn't talk about the care magical creatures, but I think it fits in here as well. So Hagrid gets his dream of being a teacher for magical creatures, and he goes a wee bit too ambitious in his first lesson, brings a hippogriff, and everybody you have to like bow to it and stuff, or it will get pissed off with you. Malfoy, being a big balls, goes up and gets attacked, and now Hagrid's in baller. And yeah, so this is sort of like the B or C story for the book. It's a nice wee break from the other sort of mystery that's going on, which I like.
Yeah, the hippogriff. Yeah, this whole scene with like Malfoy getting injured now, and it'll basically set off like a chain of events that's going to come back later. So we'll get more onto that. But yeah, I actually really like too the whole story about the hippogriff. That they're like this. It's like this new introduction of this new creature, and it's like this. It's basically like a horse eagle, and it's like they're really proud and all. And then I think it's funny then that Harry's like the one that's basically volunteered to go first and basically do this whole ceremony of bowing to it and all. And then he has to ride it and stuff as well. Yeah, cool. Jason, what about you? What's your thoughts on these chapters?
On the sort of lessons, fuck Trelawney. Nah, I just the Trelawney, the divination stuff just doesn't really do it for me. But I think it doesn't really do it for Harry, Ron, or most of the people anyways, or Hermione as well. Like, I can see the point of it, as I sort of said before we started this section of the book. It is just a sort of foreshadowing class. But again, as we've mentioned, there's just a lot of foreshadowing and sort of introduction of people like Lupin with the orb. We meet Buckbeak for the first time, and even the sort of just about Harry not being allowed to leave the school, as Stephen mentioned as well. Like, there's just lots of sort of different elements being sort of brought into play during this section. And Malfoy's just a wee twat as usual in the magical creatures class. But yeah, it was good. It's just the Trelawney stuff I find a bit of a struggle also. But the Defense Against Dark Arts, just it's good to see them finally have a good teacher for once.
Yeah, I was just going to say too, I agree completely with what Stephen said about having like a competent teacher for once, because we have it's like the coolest class. It should be the coolest class, but we haven't really seen a cool lesson yet until now. We obviously get one in the next book as well, which is cool as well. But it's very refreshing to have had that after the last two teachers. And I didn't comment on the Buckbeak thing either. I think it's one of the better Hagrid monster plots. I think like the Norbert one from the first book was a bit rushed.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And the second book with Aragog I think is a pretty good one. And obviously it has wider ramifications. And the story about the stuff with Hagrid struggling with Buckbeak and all, I think it's a pretty good plot for like as you said, Stephen, a B or C plot.
It's sort of reminiscent of the Aragog stuff from the second book. Again, like Hagrid having a creature that injures someone, or, well, obviously in the other case, I think it killed someone, but it does seem to be sort of overlap at times.
I think it's more like a mystery story in the second one, where in this it's more of a character arc, I would say.
Yeah.
More the emotional side.
It sort of shows, just it kind of drives home that Hagrid doesn't understand what he calls an interesting creature is actually a super dangerous thing, like a dragon or a massive spider or an eagle horse.
Yeah. And then we get the flobber worms for the rest of the book, which is the heart and soul of this.
Not the flobber worms.
Cool. So move on. I think in the book, which the movie basically doesn't have at this stage, is like, you have the first kind of Quidditch match. I think there's some taunting of Harry. I think this comes up later, isn't it? It actually might be the second one. But I think they start off actually, Harry, I think they're going to go to, town Hogsmeade. And basically Harry can't go because he never got the permission slip filled out. So this is when he gets speaking to Lupin about why he stopped the boggart. This is where like Lupin explains about that he thought it was going to turn into Voldemort, and that he didn't want Voldemort appearing in Hogwarts or whatever, because he might get in trouble or whatever for having the Dark Lord appearing in his class. And basically this is like Harry's also then wondering why did the Dementors affect him so, and he's like, is it because he's weaker or something like that? And it's Lupin actually more or less says, no, it's because you've got like trauma in your past and all, and with, referring to his parents getting murdered, and basically like that's why the Dementors have more of an effect on him, because there's basically more darkness in his past, and this is where Harry wants to like learn how to defend himself. So this is where kind of Lupin's basically agrees to teach him the Patronus, which is supposed to be a more advanced spell above Harry's kind of years, but because it seems like he's kind of he needs it, Lupin agrees, and they kind of like get together a lot in this book to Harry to train. Feeds him a load more chocolate and stuff as well. So I was just expecting Harry to be fucking massive by the end of this book, because if he's training the Patronus a lot, then he's going to eat loads of chocolate. But I suppose like Hogwarts is like one big eat as well.
Metabolism. Yeah,
but I think then there's a Quidditch match, and basically like Malfoy and like Crabbe and Goyle. It's not even against like Slytherin. I think it's against Hufflepuff maybe. They dress up like as like Dementors to like taunt Harry because like he fainted and all. So they're like basically saying that Harry's like weak and stuff. And then Harry like tries out the Patronus. He obviously can't really do it that well at the minute, but I think he like ends up like knocking them off their brooms or whatever. But Harry's like delighted with himself, but it turns out that it was just my final. But yeah, you kind of get some more of the Quidditch kind of stuff going on here, and you get a lot of Wood being like, we're going to be training like 5 days a week and stuff like that, and like I think there's a lot of mention like about the school year, and because they're obviously in third year now, so the work's getting harder, but it's like Harry doesn't have time to like study and all because he's like doing loads of Quidditch. And then you have like a lot of Hermione stuff with Hermione who's studying too much and all, and it's like getting overwhelmed. And then you obviously have the cat and the rat fighting and stuff. So I feel like Hermione in the show she's quite present, but I feel like in the book she doesn't really come into a lot until the end or closer to the end, because I think because of her like workload and stuff in the book, and like Ron's always fighting with her. So she's always like it's always like Ron and Harry just like whenever they're doing something. But yeah, then we get the scene with the fat lady. Basically, they go to the Gryffindor. They're trying to go into the Gryffindor common room, and they find the portrait has been like slashed, and the fat lady's missing. And it basically then revealed that Sirius Black has tried to enter the castle, and all hell breaks loose. It's like, how the hell did he get past the Dementors and all? It's like, well, if he could get out of Azkaban, then why can't they slip past them again? And then people are starting to realise that they're actually in proper danger, that Hogwarts isn't that safe. Big surprise, Hogwarts, the safest place ever, is actually not safe, as it turns out to be every single school year. But yeah, it's basically like, now you've seen that Sirius Black has actually attempted to get into the Hogwarts, or to the Gryffindor common room, so it's like Harry's like, oh shit, he's basically trying to come get him. So we then get another Quidditch match. This one, the Dementors actually do interfere in the match, and I think basically Harry's chasing the snitch, and then the Dementors come out of nowhere and start attacking him and feeding on him. This time they actually do, and I think it's described later because it was like, I always wondered why they attacked here. And it's like because there were so many bodies in the Quidditch pitch, they just like couldn't resist basically a big snack, essentially.
Just one thing. I think you have the two matches the wrong way around.
Yeah, I was thinking that, like, because I thought that Harry, because he gets attacked, and then that's why they taunt him on the broom. So yeah, sorry, this is the alright about it, but I'll just continue it now. So yeah, he basically gets attacked, and he faints again, falls off his broom, and Dumbledore does some magic to stop him from falling to his death, essentially. But when Harry comes to then in the hospital, it's found out that his broom has been broken. Yeah, so that's basically then why he tries to learn then how to do the Patronus and all them, because obviously he's now been attacked twice, and that's when he goes to learn the Patronus, and then he does it against Malfoy then in the next Quidditch match. Yeah, so they are the wrong way about. But yeah, it turns out that Harry's broom got blown into the Whomping Willow and has been broke to bits and is unrepairable. So it's like now Harry doesn't have a broom, and again, like, the book goes into a lot of like, they want to do Quidditch and all, but Harry can't because he has no broom. And he doesn't want to use one of the crapper ones, because Harry had like a Nimbus 2000, which I think is like when they're in what do you call it, Diagon Alley at the start, there's like foreshadowing of a new broom called the Firebolt, which is supposed to be the fastest one. You always get this in the first book. It's like Harry goes on, it's the Nimbus 2000, it's the fastest broom, and now the third one. And interestingly, again, another comparison between the movie and the book is that the Firebolt actually doesn't appear until the end, again because the Quidditch isn't too prevalent in the third movie. The Firebolt comes more into it in the fourth book, which I thought was interesting. But yeah, it's actually in the movie, or in the book, basically now, because Harry's broom has been destroyed, it's actually next chapter, he basically receives a Firebolt. It's a mysterious gift, and he doesn't actually know who it's from, so he's not actually allowed it because they think it might have been sent by Sirius Black, and that it might be like cursed or something like that. So they basically take it away from him, so he can't even use that. So he's basically now without a broom, while they're he's getting shit from Wood and stuff about like trying to do this won this Quidditch Cup. But yeah, we'll maybe go on or discuss these two sections then. So basically the two Quidditch matches that I had the opposite way around, the fat lady and Sirius Black, and then the actual learning the Patronus and stuff like that. So yeah, over to you, Michael. What do you think about this portion?
Yeah, I just want to talk about one of the other minor characters in this book, who is Oliver Wood. He is he plays a big part in this book, and I find him.
He does have a big part. Yeah,
I find him.
Glad you missed it, Michael.
Find him quite funny because I just love that his entire personality is Quidditch, which I can see people would say like that makes him a character, but I would defend that and say this is Rowling is obviously like channeling football or soccer to our American listeners. And there are teenagers like that who make their entire personality football when they're growing up, so I don't see it as unrealistic or anything. It's a bit cartoonized, but I think that is for comedy reasons, and for me it works anyway. I don't know if any of you find it annoying or anything, but
no, I like it. After Harry is in the hospital, and he's like, "Where's Wood?"
Yeah,
and look, he's still in the showers. Just the image of him just being distraught, with head down in the shower,
just like Tobias, and it's never,
clutching the two halves of Harry's broom, just like, no.
I really like the stuff with Lupin and Harry throughout this book, especially in this section. I love that their talk about the issue with the Dementors sets up this internal character flaw for Harry to overcome throughout the course of the story. It gives this emotional underpin that I think is more present within this book than previous books, and maybe even future books as well, that he has not only to physically learn the spell and do something physical, he has to overcome his internal demons to be able to do this properly. He has to summon happy memories, which we know is a hard thing for Harry to do.
Summon happy memories while you're under duress as well,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, with all the tragedy that comes that's happened in his life. And I like that plays into the Quidditch matches. That's like its own self-contained little arc, that he initially is a passive character, that he falls off his broom, that he can't do anything to defend himself, and then the second time he has a bit more agency and he can defend himself a bit more. So it's like a smaller arc, but there's obviously a wider arc throughout this story then. I wrote too in my notes, Harry needs an OP broom to be good at Quidditch.
Fact.
That's all he seems to have. And I've also got, I don't know if this happens yet, but Rowling tries to sort of fix or rebalance Quidditch in this book by introducing the goal difference aspect to it, which does help a bit. It makes the other players feel slightly less useless, because it's they can affect the league table, but they're still mostly useless, because if the Seeker just does his job, then they don't come into the equation.
Yeah, I think
so. I
think 10 points for a goal is far too low. I think balancing it would have been up in the points for a goal sort of thing, or reducing the amount of points a snitch gets you. Yeah.
Reduce the snitch.
and the slashed the portrait moment and everything. Sirius being able to invade Hogwarts, it just makes him feel so imposing. It's like, how did this guy get past these Dementors and get into Hogwarts when even Voldemort has really struggled to do that? He's had to disguise behind a teacher or be in a book. He can't. This guy has just walked into Hogwarts seemingly. How has he done that? And it just makes him feel very scary in this moment going forward. We also get some Whomping Willow foreshadowing here with the broom being broken, because the Whomping Willow is mentioned and it comes into play later. So it's just kind of framing it that it's going to come back in this story. And then obviously the stuff with the broom being confiscated, that further puts Harry and Ron at odds with Hermione. If the stuff with Scabbers and Crookshanks has already not strained their relationship, then this further does it. I think I would side with Ron in the Scabbers and Crookshanks stuff, because I think Hermione brings Crookshanks into their dorm and stuff, so I think that is her fault.
It's not.
I do think she did the right thing.
It's not even her bringing him in. It's that she brings him in, but she also doesn't seem to care at all. Any of the times she's like, he's a cat. That's what they do. Fuck your pet.
Yeah, and I think we're supposed to side with Hermione because of what we learn later, but given the context of the moment and not what happens later and what we learn later, I think that she would be in the wrong if this was just a two normal pets,
100% behind you, Michael.
100%.
Yeah.
I think Ron goes too far though, because it's a rat, but still I think she was in the wrong.
Yeah, I think she was in the right though to tell about the broom, because
100%.
Yeah.
Cool. Stephen, over to you.
This might be one of the better sections for me. A lot of good stuff. I don't really like the Quidditch matches in these books, I feel like there are a lot of fluff that could just be, I don't know. I don't really care about them too much. But, they are what they are. The reason for Harry's broom being destroyed and having to learn the Patronus, I think it's obviously important, but I think they go on a bit too long, So What else? Sorry, what was in this section?
Yeah, so there's the fat lady
Fat
getting
lady, yeah.
slashed. The two Quidditch matches where one was where the Dementors and then one's where Malfoy attacks him.
Yeah.
And you have him learning the Patronus from Lupin, starting the
Right, yeah.
process of learning it and finding out.
So yeah, the Quidditch matches, I think they were good, but they were too long. The Patronus, learning the Patronus from Lupin, I think it's just a lot of like building there of like lore and also backstory for Lupin, because you also kind of find out that he knew Harry's father and stuff like that, and they were mates at school and everything. And we're sort of getting a better picture of Lupin as we go along. And you can see that he's a good caring teacher and everything, and he's actually able to teach him a really complicated spell, which is pretty cool. The fat lady getting slashed, I think it's not so much. It sort of amps up the danger, obviously, because yeah, he can get up to the school like Michael was saying. Nobody else seems to be like the bigger bads just can't seem to be able to do that as easily. He also did it like in the middle of the daytime or when there was a feast on or something, which is like even more mad. You know, he just walked past everybody sort of thing. Almost like he's a ghost or something. But I think one of the better things to come out of the fat lady getting slashed is the replacement portrait. Sir Cadogan. I absolutely love him as a character. The Mad Knight, I think he's so funny. And the fact that he keeps changing the passwords constantly.
He's a bit harsh, isn't
he? Doesn't he want? He always wants to go on like a quest, and all the way Harry and Ron ever did.
Even the way he talks to them, you know, it's just really funny. Like.
I agree.
And yeah, Oliver Wood, just the whole stuff about him being super distraught about it's his last year, and he's probably not going to win the cup now because they've lost his first match and Harry's broom's broken and everything. So I like it. It's good section.
Yeah, cool. Jason, how about you?
Yes, great section between. I love the Quidditch stuff in this book. It's actually some of my favourite chapters in the third book. I don't feel it dragged out, and I mean I'm sort of skipping ahead a wee bit, but I'm pretty sure in the Quidditch match in this part, Rowling sort of introduces some characters that become more important in further books. Like I think Cedric Diggory is actually the Seeker.
Right,
yeah.
In the match where Harry gets attacked by the Dementors, and they sort of skip ahead. I think Cho Chang's actually one of
she's the Seeker
Quidditch players.
Yeah, that's
in
right.
the final game. So I mean, very minor characters that you don't really pay much attention to at this stage, but we know become bigger down the line. But I absolutely love the Quidditch because the commentator is just hilarious. I can't remember what his name is.
Lee Jordan.
But Lee Jordan. He's funny. I actually just like the intensity, even though we know the score's crap.
I think I would actually prefer it if Harry was just chaser. I think I'd be more interested.
Yeah, they should just get rid of Seekers and do a time limit, make the game simpler.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a flawed game. Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
And yeah, just the
Also,
stuff
just in
with
the hero. Like.
well, that's also true. Yeah. But yeah, the stuff of Sirius breaking in just amps up the tension, and the sort of sections between Harry and Lupin. I think at one point as well, Lupin gets brought a potion by Snape as well, which sort of what's the potion for? Bit of foreshadowing as usual.
Harry's like raging that he drunk it and all. It's like, yeah, Harry, you know, Professor Snape, maybe I can't, but he's not poisoning teachers in broad daylight. Like
he might kill on Toad, but teachers, no. Yet. Sorry, spoilers.
Just animals.
No, I thought it was a great section. Things really picked up for me now. I'm quite happy with the book at this stage.
Yeah.
I suppose if you got rid of the Seekers and it was like more like football, then the amount of like stoppage time winners that Harry would be scoring would.
Yeah.
Carla on the top buns from freaking 50 yards out.
And Harry scores a screamer.
Taking his top off.
Taking his robes off. There's a new Quidditch game coming out, isn't there?
It's a DLC for Legacy, isn't it?
Yeah.
It came out for free.
Oh, then I thought they were putting out a full game.
Well, there's a full game.
Right.
Is it the same
I just
people
don't think
making
it's
Legacy?
very good. It's not part of Legacy, no.
No, that's not very good, but because the rules are shocking. Yeah, so one thing I want to talk about there actually is the difference between the movie and the book is like, yeah, you get the description about the Patronus and this, about how you need to like use this this really happy memory. So basically, like the Patronus is basically like the shield that's you generate, and then the Dementors will feed off it. So like to cast a powerful Patronus, you need like a powerful memory. And you just don't get the same thing in the movie. It's actually not about that. It's about how loud you can scream. Because as we know, Harry can generate a bigger Patronus if he screams louder. Because that's just how it works. Like,
it's Dragon Ball Z logic.
Say Dragon Ball Z or us screaming Gerard every time we shot.
To generate power, like.
Is it? Is that a difference between the film and the book? I never even caught that until you said it. But in the film, it is like that. Yeah, they kind of feed off of that. But I thought in the book, it's more that because they're like the opposite of Patronus, they're sort of scared by it.
Yeah, I think it is described that as in the book as a shield as well that they feed off, but I'm not sure why it scares them away. Surely they just remain just feeding off.
Well, because it's like it's like the opposite of them, right?
But don't they feed on the happiness?
I don't know.
Like so they it's maybe just you just have to accept what it is. Like
I think another difference too between the book and the movie is the memory that Harry uses. Doesn't he use a different one in the book and the movie?
Yeah.
In the movie, he uses one where it's like a half remembered memory just being with his parents or something, and he says it's not even that happy. Or I think in the book, what does he use again? Is it like the first time he won the House Cup or something?
Or first time he rode a broom or something? Like, no.
Something like that.
Sounds stupid, I don't know.
Or when he was told when he was a wizard or something, or I can't remember.
Yeah. I think the movie does better there because it's like it's a memory. He says he doesn't even know if it's a real memory, if it's happy or whatever. So it's kind of
it's a lot more
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah,
cool. So we'll kind of move on. So the next then is the Marauders map. So I absolutely love the whole idea of the Marauders map. But basically, Harry is fed up having to stay behind when everyone else gets to go to Hogsmeade because it's like they keep saying how amazing it is, and there's this like sweet shop and joke shop and on. Harry's just raging. So he basically sticks on the invisibility cloak to kind of chant his arm and try and get past the Dementors to get out. But Fred and George catch him on the way. They kind of, I think it's snowing, and they see like his footprints or something like that. Well, that's what happens in the movie anyway. But yeah, they basically like say, "Here, Harry, we've got this better way for you to get out." And they basically give him this Marauders map, and that they said it's the secret to their success. But they more or less know all the passages off by heart. So it basically shows you a whole map of Hogwarts and all the secret passages. So that's why they're giving it to him, so he can get these secret passages. But it also kind of shows you where everyone is. So you'll get like Dumbledore bombing about his office and all, and it'll basically show someone's name and where they are. Again, this will come into play in a minute later for the more towards the end. But yeah, so Harry can use this now to take a route out of the castle and to get into Hogsmeade. So he basically goes to Hogsmeade and kind of meets up with Ron and Hermione, who are like obviously surprised to see him there. But obviously Hermione's being Hermione and being like, "You shouldn't be out here" and all. And I think she said she would tell if Harry did try to get out just to save him because he obviously is Sirius Black's after him. But Ron's obviously happy that he's there. But during this, Harry overhears someone mention Sirius Black, and it's like Professor McGonagall, Hagrid's. I can't remember what the other lady's called in it, and then you have the Minister of Magic as well. I think it's the girl that like owns the bar or something like that they're at, or the Wizard pub, and then basically they all go upstairs in the pub and have this like kind of private conversation. But Harry has the invisibility cloak, so he like goes in and overhears it, and basically they talk about Sirius Black, and this is where you actually learn more about who Sirius Black is, and it actually turns out that Sirius Black is Harry Potter's godfather, and that he betrayed Harry's parents. That he basically was like James's best friend at school, and then when they got older and the Potters went into hiding, they did this pact with Sirius. This was it's like a charm, or what you describe it as, Stephen?
The Alias charm, it's called.
Yeah. So it's basically like that you are a secret keeper, and only you know the information about these people, which is the location of them, so no one else can find out. But apparently, then they said that Sirius Black was. Went behind their back and divulged this information to Lord Voldemort, and then that's why Lord Voldemort found them and killed them. So yeah, basically Harry overhears all this about Sirius Black and how he betrayed his parents and that he's actually his godfather. So you find out a bit more about him, and then I think outside the village, Harry goes out and is like upset and stuff like that. And then I think the whole thing with like Malfoy and all is different in the book and the movie. Malfoy and all shows up. Because in the book, it actually happens before they go on the Hogsmeade, but it's basically at this point, like Malfoy shows up, and then Harry's invisibility cloak actually kind of falls off his head. So then they see a floating head, and then Malfoy basically is more or less seeing Harry's head, but he doesn't actually quite know what he's seeing. But then there's like this race to get back to the castle because like Snape's already on to Harry about like he always keeps hanging about this like passage entrance and stuff. But yeah, that's just something different. But yeah, so we already talked then about the firebolt. So he actually receives the firebolt then later in one of the chapters, but we brought it up a bit earlier. So moving on to the next Quidditch match is Gryffindor versus Ravenclaw. So this is where like, Harry gets to actually use the new firebolt for the first time. So I think I can't remember what was the result of that one, as in Harry catch the snitch for that, because obviously he's got the OP broom again.
That's the one where the Dementors, Malfoy turns up and he does the thing, and anyone's.
Yes. So it's that one, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, he does win, so he catches the snitch obviously, because he's fucking, far faster than anyone else. I suppose it makes sense that the Seeker would have the best broom, but yeah, it's just the mad that like Harry always like gets the broom bought to him, like he never, even though Harry has all this money and that Gringotts bank and all, he's never buying his own brooms, like he's always getting them.
Yeah, he's giving them to them, yeah. I think doesn't he outsmart Cho Chang though as well? Like he tricks her into doing a dive and crashing or something because he's a bad. I can't remember.
I remember he does something. Doesn't he do something to Malfoy or something where he's like he pretends he sees the snitch and then like goes after it, and then Malfoy like follows him when they're playing Slytherin earlier.
That might be what I'm thinking of.
That's quite good. So yeah, there's then a bit of information there. There's like I think they go back to the Gryffindor common room and Harry learns that like Scabbers has been missing, and Hermione and Ron are in this heated argument that basically Crookshanks has killed Scabbers. And yeah, that's kind of like you don't actually see Scabbers again now until a pivotal point later. And again, this is more foreshadowing for what's going on. I think this is then where the point where you get another encounter with Sirius Black, as in this where this isn't in the movie, but in the book, basically Harry wakes up there like Ron screaming, and apparently Sirius Black, like Harry didn't see him, but like apparently Sirius Black was in the common room, or in like the room where they actually sleep, and was like standing over Ron's bed with a knife. So at this stage you assume that Sirius was just at the wrong bed, but later we'll find out why he was actually there. Yeah, like it's now the case where Sirius is able to get into the actual common room. And again, this is not in the movie, but like in the book, it's actually said like they blame Neville for this because Neville has to write down the passwords to get into the common room because he can never remember them, which is a recurring joke throughout the series.
And then the portrait keeps changing them because he's a madman.
Yeah, he keeps changing them like more often than normal. So like Neville's decided to write them down, but he like misplaced the page with all the passwords on it. And again, right now we believe that it was Neville's fault, and quite convincingly, because Neville is a bit of an idiot. Like, we'll find out later what actually happened to the notes, but that's more foreshadowing. Yeah, basically that's because of that, Sirius Black was able to get into the common room and was trying to kill Harry with a knife. Again, why is he using a knife? But I guess maybe he probably doesn't have a wand, I guess. But it's just weird that he had a knife. I always thought that was just strange. You don't really get like knives or stuff in the Wizard world that has always like wands you're like trying to attack each other with. Yeah, I just thought it was funny. So there's also a conversation, or like whenever Harry's trying to like sneak through the school using the Marauder's map, he basically gets Snape catches him essentially with this piece of parchment, and it's like, what the hell is this? And Harry's like, it's just a spare bit of parchment. He's like, absolutely not. You're definitely up to something. Like he's like, Snape's like reveal his secrets to the map, and then it actually like insults Snape because like he's not off our ears and like spoke the password or the magic phrase, which is I solemnly swear that I'm up to no good, which actually activates the map so you can read it. And then Lupin comes in the nick of time and intercepts and said, here, this is my area of expertise, Snape. I'll deal with this, leave Harry alone and stuff. But you kind of get a sense of like Snape's just hatred over Lupin again here. And yeah, basically Harry goes with Lupin to Lupin's office, and Lupin's like actually raging with Harry, saying like, how did you get this map and stuff? And like, very irresponsible they have it and all, and that if Sirius Black got this map, it's basically a map to Harry. And yeah, that's Harry then says that he doesn't think that the map's actually working because he's seen somebody's name on it that shouldn't be on it. And Lupin's like, who? And he's like, Peter Pettigrew. And Lupin's like, that's not possible. And then Harry's all, that's what I've seen. So yeah, we'll maybe take a break there, and we'll go on to thoughts about these kind of sections. So we'll go to you, Michael.
I thought the Marauders map is a really cool addition to this series as well. At this point, it ties in again to that kind of wish fulfillment element of the Harry Potter, which is always a big part of the series. It's just the fact Hogwarts is this big, massive castle with so much magic in it, just to make it even like that bit cooler. Harry, the character that we're following now, has the map which tells him all the secrets and all the passages, and it's just the idea of having that map and being basically the person who knows the most about Hogwarts, probably even more than the headmaster. And then we get Hogsmeade. We're introduced to the Shrieking Track and everything, but more foreshadowing there. And then obviously the reveal with Sirius, again, which is it's another big major piece of information that Harry overhears, but I think it's a bit more forgivable in this instance because at least he is wearing the invisibility cloak. It feels a bit more like he is actively seeking out the information, so it doesn't feel as contrived, I don't think, as maybe like the Molly and Arthur one did at the beginning of the story. Just
on that, Michael, I think it's actually, that's what happens in the film, but in the book he is just sitting there and they're behind him and they start talking about it.
Oh, really? So I was thinking of going up to the office in the movie.
That doesn't happen. Yeah,
I think I was saying, Jonathan, I've rewatched the movie and reread the book so many times they kind of meld together sometimes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, in the book, he's definitely just sitting there.
So it is a bit more contrived then, but yeah, it's another Harry over here and important plot points within this series, which happens a lot, obviously, in Harry Potter.
And the first few books, anyways.
Yeah. I wrote in my notes too while we were talking, Jonathan, that Sirius likes to use knives because he can't savor all the little emotions with wands. And then so we get a little the back and forth with Snape and Lupin, which is obviously a very important relationship within this book, and it obviously alludes to another relationship, Snape and somebody else. It's a gateway into that, but that would be going into spoiler territories at this stage, but something that plays a larger role within the entire series then as well. Yeah, I quite like this section as well. I would say Hogsmeade is probably the high point of this specific section. And I wanted to say, I just talk about the twist too with Sirius being that Harry's godfather and all. I think that is it's satisfying to tie them together. It's that whole Spider-Man logic where the villain always has like a personal tie to the hero. So it's kind of that element of it. I'm not crazy about the whole secret keeper piece of magic. That feels like it could be very OP. I don't know if like everybody could be each other's secret keeper and then Voldemort can't find anybody and he's just like in the world on his own or something.
See, they sort of mention that later on in the 5th book, where the more people know about it, like dilutes the chance for it to get out, so it's not a secret anymore.
Right, okay. Nah. Rowling, she is good at that too, where she recognizes like a small flaw in logic, and then she makes a wee explanation for it later. So no, I will.
It is balls though, because like, so apparently only Sirius was, for now, Sirius was the only one supposed to know. So how did Hagrid know where to go to get Harry? You know?
Yeah.
Balls. Anyway.
There's another thing that's revealed there. It's like the bike that Hagrid rides at the very start of the first book is actually Sirius Black's bike.
Yeah.
Yeah, madness. Yeah, what about you, Stephen?
This is probably my favourite bit of the book. Well, maybe the very last, the Shrieking Sack part, but this part's really good. I think there's a lot of wee subtle things that we learn about here that just enhance the story so much. Like, obviously, the scene where they're in the pub and he finds out about Sirius's godfather and the secret keeper and all that there, and Hagrid got the bike and stuff, and it sort of makes Sirius seem more like a villain because it's told about how like there was all these Muggle. So when he found out that Voldemort his power had broke or whatever, like it'd been defeated, sort of thing, he decides to go and get revenge, right? And that's what's alluded to. And he comes across this other mate of the Potters called Peter Pettigrew, and it's supposedly there's all these Muggle eyewitnesses that say that he killed him by blasting apart the street, and all that was left was his toe. And it's there's a lot of like wee subtle things like that come back later that I think just make it so good. So there's that, and then small things like the Grimm showing up at the Quidditch match and stuff like that. And yeah, I think the Marauders map is such a good addition to the series. But I do think Rowling sort of wrote herself in the hole, particularly for the next book, right? Where he's got this sort of OP map that shows where everybody is all the time. Just another wee correction to something you said there, Johnny, about him seeing pedigree on the map. That doesn't happen in the book either. You don't even find out who that is until... Well, you find out in the pub, but you don't know that he's on the map till later on.
Oh, really? That's, again, like Michael said, it's the movie and the pictures blending together.
It's Lupin that sees him on the map, and he's like, that can't be right. And then he goes out to think. But yeah, so it's just really cool idea, the idea of the Marauders map. And then, you get sort of a good sense of the disdain between Lupin and Snape, where, they're colleagues, but for some reason they don't like each other.
Yeah, Jason, good night.
The Marauders map part is definitely a strong point of the book, and just the whole is just an excellent introduction, I think, for this stage. I enjoyed the whole sort of Hogsmeade sort of section. I enjoyed, even though I was slagging off the sort of overhearing thing, I actually like that he sort of gets a bit more information on the Sirius Black and what happened to his family. I think we get a bit more stuff about Buckbeak here as well. I think we get a bit more about like his trial and everything like that. We also get a bit more of the Quidditch side of things. I didn't really like the sort of plot about Harry and Ron falling out of Hermione just because she gave away the broom. But I suppose there was already tensions there with Crookshanks trying to kill Scabbers. Although I didn't really love that sort of side plot of the book, with Hermione just being missing for most of it. I suppose it comes back and is explained a bit later, but I felt like she wasn't really part of the story until a bit later on. But it was a good section, definitely. Quite a lot going on. Things are picking up a wee bit in the story, especially the Sirius Black side of things.
I absolutely agree there what you said about Hermione there. I feel like a lot of the book focuses on like a lot of the fighting between Ron and Hermione, and then Harry obviously and Ron then whenever the broom gets involved and Harry's raging about that. There's a lot of that in the book, whereas in the movie you get like one or two arguments about the cat and the rats fighting, and that's really about it. Like I felt like the stuff in the book was a bit too much in terms of that. But so I'm aware that a lot of the things we've talked about here have been like, we'll talk about this but near the end and stuff, so I'd like to get onto that now. So basically just go through these next two just to get up to that and then into the main chapter. But the next two chapters is basically the Quidditch final. So we basically get Gryffindor winning the Quidditch Cup. So, Woods gets the justice that he deserved, and we're all deeply happy for him. But they won the Quidditch Cup. And then we get a scene in one of the divination classes at the end. I think Harry... It's actually in the movie, like he's returning like a ball, but in the book he's doing an exam or something, so he's like the only person in the room with Professor Trelawney, and basically Trelawney actually like goes friggin' changes and like has this weird voice and all, and actually ends up making this like proper prediction, and basically says that Voldemort's servant's going to return this like to Voldemort this night, and then Trelawney like snaps out of like this, it's almost like a trance she was under, and then snaps out and has no recollection of it, and Harry's like, what the hell, like just happened, like is this a real prediction or what? So basically Harry is now aware of some mad stuff that might go down. But that's just to cover those two wee chapters quickly, and then we're getting now into the next chapter, which is Cat, Rat and Dog. So this is where things go a bit mad. So I think this around the start of this chapter, or it might actually be the previous chapter, is when Harry, Ron and Hermione head down to Hagrid's, because the whole stuff with Buckbeak, basically, because Buckbeak earlier we mentioned attacked Malfoy, there's been this like trial of Buckbeak and all against like the Malfoys, and like Malfoy's father trying to convince the Ministry and all that this beast needs to be put down, and unfortunately Buckbeak loses the trial and has been sentenced to death. So Harry, Ron and Hermione are down in Hagrid's hut. I think it's because they're there to like comfort him, or he shouldn't be alone during this. But they're obviously not allowed to be out of the castle and stuff at this time. I think it's later in the evening, and also Harry in general, just because of Sirius Black and stuff. So they leave Hagrid's hut and kind of see Buckbeak chained up outside, and just kind of there's nothing really they can do because the Dumbledore, the Minister, and the Executioner. Actually, I think it's the Executioner in the movie, but it's actually this character in the book that's also the Executioner. Stephen, you might remember his name.
McNair.
McNair, that's it, yeah.
Walden
So he's like an actual
McNair.
proper character. Yeah, so like they're heading down to basically carry out the sentence and do the execution. So Ron, Hermione, and Harry are heading up back towards the castle then, and even though they thought that Scabbers has been killed by Crookshanks, Ron spots Scabbers sprinting across, and after him is Crookshanks, and Ron chases after him, being like, you know, God, you're alive and all, and runs after him, and then they get attacked by a black dog who grabs Ron's leg and basically drags him under on this like passage under the Wampum Willow. And Ron and Hermione go after Harry and Hermione go after Ron. He's been like taken by this dog down this passage, and this is like one of the secret passages, and it ends up that this takes them to the Shrieking Shack, and Harry and Hermione go in and see Ron's leg is mangled and he's holding Scabbers the rat, and then it turns out that the dog is actually an animagus, and it's actually Sirius Black. And this is where Harry basically confronts, or Sirius Black and Harry come face to face for the first time. And basically Harry is, you know, just literally filled with rage and over about this betrayal of his parents and stuff. And like, even though Sirius Black is this dangerous, you know, murderer or whatever, Harry just goes at him, attacks him. And I think they do a bit of scuffling on the ground and stuff. And then Professor Lupin busts in, and just as Harry is pointing his wand at Sirius Black to like threats basically to kill him, Lupin busts in and, you know, does an Expelliarmus and takes Harry's wand, and then goes to Sirius Black and they embrace, and they are, you know, Harry is absolutely flabbergasted at this. Like, he absolutely loved Lupin, who was helping him through the year and stuff, and then it turns out now that Lupin is friends with Sirius Black, and Harry's like, what the hell, you're in leagues with him and all. And then Hermione just divulges that Lupin's actually a werewolf, and he's like, God, you're clever, how did you know that? And all, and she's like, yeah, because whenever Snape taught us about werewolves, she kind of started putting it all together, that Lupin kept coming to class and he was absolutely a mess, and he had like scars, and he was always tired, and he was always gone when the full moon was out and stuff. That was when, like, the time of the month, obviously, when he transforms. So yeah,
and
at
he's
this
afraid
stage
of the
then,
and
that's what the orb was. The boggart was actually a moon, which you can clearly see in the movie, but like in the book, I think the students describe it as an orb, and they're not sure what it is, and they're all wondering why Lupin's afraid of some white orb. But yeah, basically then they're like, well, what the hell is going on here? And then Sirius Black and Lupin try to explain to them that Sirius Black wasn't the one that betrayed the parents, but the person that did is actually in this room with them. And they're all like, what the hell's going on? Like, what are you on about? And yeah, they basically say that it was Peter Pettigrew, who is actually an animagus and is Ron's rat, which I love the way it's described in the book, as Ron is absolutely just disgusted from this point on, which is the way you would be if you were sleeping with this pet and then they find out that it's actually a grown man this whole time. It's absolutely shocking.
It's
like,
rat behaviour, like, so.
Yeah, because I think he even brings up, he's like, you slept in my bed like, with Scabbers. It's absolutely madness. But basically, Scabbers is actually Peter Pettigrew. So I think just before the big reveal, and they've actually convinced Harry and all that this is true, Snape busts in, and, you know, Harry's like, he's intrigued by the story. I think he's not fully on board, but Snape busts in and is like, about the, you know, he wants to basically deliver Black to the Dementors and all, because Snape absolutely hates Sirius Black. And this is another part that I think the book does really well, is in explaining why, you know, Snape hates Lupin and Black and all so much, is because, like, they bullied him back at Hogwarts, and, like, they played a trick on him. So, like, the Shrieking Shack is actually a place where Lupin would go to transform into a werewolf. Like, Dumbledore set it up, and that's why it's, like, called the Shrieking Shack. So the locals would really think it was, or thought it was, like, ghosts or some kind of monsters, but it was actually, well, it was a monster, to be fair. It was basically Lupin going for his werewolf phase for that night, and he was basically contained in the Shrieking Shack because the Wampum Willow was basically preventing him from getting out. So yeah, this is like a place where Dumbledore created for Lupin to transform, and because Lupin was, you know, he shouldn't even really have been at school at Hogwarts, but like Dumbledore being sound on let him in, and like Lupin, you know, had no friends or whatever, and because he was like this monster. But basically Harry's dad, Sirius Black, and Peter Pettigrew were the other three friends of that 4-friend group. They all became Animagi secretly. So Harry's dad was a Sirius Black's obviously the big black dog we've been seeing, and Peter Pettigrew became a rat. And because werewolves are only a danger to humans, they don't actually attack animals. So they were able to hang out with him when they were in animal form. And sometimes they would tell stories about how they would roam the schools and stuff like that, even though it was dangerous if they had have ran into anyone. You know, like Lupin as the werewolf could not control himself whenever there was a human there. He would basically attack the human. So, but they were like, yeah, we shouldn't have been doing that. But, you know, we were all, you know, just having the crack when we were, you know, younger. Which I think was like a really good kind of story that was described in the book that's not really given to you in the movie. But basically they play a trick on Snape where, you know, Sirius and James and Peter tell Snape to go to this secret passage, the Shrieking Shack. I can't remember how they get him lured there, but basically they, you know, that he's unaware that there's a werewolf there, and if Snape goes in, he'll basically be, you know, killed by the werewolf. But I think at the last minute, James saves or stops Snape going in there. Because there's like this constant story of how James saved Snape's life, but it was actually James was also involved in the fact that he was in danger in the first place. So yeah, it's quite a good story reveal as well. But yeah, Snape absolutely hates Sirius once they take him to the Dementors himself, and then Harry actually doesn't expel Aramis on Snape and basically knocks him unconscious because he's intrigued by the story that he's being fed by Lupin and Sirius. So then they actually force Peter Pettigrew to reveal himself. So the rat then transforms into a man, and they actually see that he's... Or well, I suppose I could go a wee bit into the story of how Sirius... Again, this is another thing that's only really described in the book. But like how Sirius actually escaped from Azkaban is because he wasn't really too interested. But I think because he was when he became the dog, the Dementors couldn't sense him as well and didn't affect him as much. So that's why, like they say, that most people in Azkaban go mad. But he basically he got a newspaper. The Minister of Magic visited and left his newspaper, and he's seen the picture of Ron, which Stephen, you brought up this earlier. He's seen the picture of Ron and his family in Egypt, and he's seen the rat, and he knew straight away who it was. And he's seen like the missing toe, which is, you know, the story is that the only thing that was left of Peter Pettigrew was his finger. So it turned out he actually chopped off his finger to make it look as if he was obliterated, and this is all that was left. But he actually did survive, and it was him, Peter Pettigrew, who actually killed everyone on the street that day. But yeah, Sirius recognised him, and that was like what give him the willpower to break out of Azkaban. He basically transformed into the dog, which the Dementors couldn't sense, and he swam back to land, which again, I don't know if it's good that it's explained. I like that it was explained, but I think like in the movie, you're just kind of like, how the hell did he get out? And you never find out. Which again, I can see why people would like the mystery of it still being a mystery. But I like the fact that it was explained, because it's just like one of the things you're like, yeah, how the hell did he do that? But yeah. So they reveal Peter Pettigrew, and yeah, it basically turned to Harry then now knows that they're telling the truth, and it was actually Peter Pettigrew that betrayed his parents to Voldemort. And then this comes back to he is a servant of Voldemort, and then the whole a prediction that Trelawney was making. I was like, the servant will return to him that night. And also, it's all starting to make sense for Harry. And basically, they detain Peter Pettigrew and are going to take him back up to the castle to, basically explain what went on. So Sirius is not going to be, exonerated. And then, just as they're about to go, Professor Lupin transforms, or it turns out that Professor Lupin hasn't taken the potion. So this is the potion that Snape has been making to essentially stop the transformation into the werewolf. And basically, make sure that's... I think it doesn't stop it, but it stops him being violent or something like that. Is that right?
I think he keeps his memory. He still transforms, but he keeps his memory or something, so he just curls up under his desk, I think is what he says.
Because he's still rough and all, isn't he? So he still transforms, yeah, but he's not like a danger as such anymore. So it basically nullifies the danger, but he hasn't taken that potion tonight, and it turns out it's a full moon, so unfortunately he transforms at this stage just as they're about to take Peter Pettigrew up to the castle and reveal the truth. And then Sirius, holds or fights with, transforms into the dog and fights the werewolf. And Peter Pettigrew ends up getting away. So we'll leave it there, and I'll cover the last part then, because that was a lot there. So yeah, what did you think about this the big reveal and all that, and this actual thing with the rat being a fully grown man for 12 years in Ron's family and sleeping beside him and all? Yeah, so go to you first, Michael.
So first of all, I just want to congratulate Oliver Wood. I'm so pleased for him that he got his cup.
Big props.
I'm delighted. But I also have here Trelawney goes Galadriel on the movie and gives the reveal. I mean, it's a cool payoff for her character to see that she just has these moments of genuine prophecy, and again, that has wider ramifications in the whole series. We know. I think all the plots they coalesce really well here. I think this is probably, I don't know if it's accurate to say, I need to revisit all these books before I can make this claim of whether this is the best Harry Potter book or not. I'm not sure. But I think it is the best plotted book. I think it's the most tightly and best technically plotted, with everything that pays off, everything that's foreshadowed, and how tightly it all comes together. I think Rowling herself said this was the easiest Harry Potter book to write, and I think that really shows, especially in times like this when the climax there's such fluidity to the way everything just comes together. And going into the Shrieking Shack, the confrontations with all the characters, it's just a great way to kind of have a. It's not we know it's not even the climax of the story. It's like the pseudo climax of the story. It's actually there's another part after this that it goes again. But I thought it was a great bit of dispensing of the backstory. And yeah, I've written that I think it's the most what the fuck moment in the entire series. That Peter Pettigrew is the rat. It's just his commitment to the bit for 12 years is astonishing. I was like wondering before this, I was like, surely would it have been better just to be like a field mouse or something? But I guess he could have been like eaten by a bird or something in that case.
Yeah, I think that's another thing they explain well in the book, is that because as soon as he gave Voldemort this information about Harry's parents, like Voldemort ended up getting killed or like destroyed. And then it's like all his followers then would have been like, maybe Peter Pettigrew was like doing like a double agent and has actually set up Voldemort for disaster. So I think it's like he had to go on to hiding from both sides. So basically that's why he had to come up to the bit. Like, but yeah, fair play.
Yeah, and I guess being a pet rat probably is better than being a wild rat. So he probably did.
I think they say too that being the pet rat, because he was in a wizarding family and he could like keep up with the wizarding news, so if any information came out about Voldemort, he would be able to jump on it, he would hear about it.
Yeah, no, I guess it does make sense. It's still just extremely insane.
Hello.
We have Snape then, who bursts in, and then we start to get the backstory with Snape. And I think it's a really good touch to it to get more backstory, and this really tense moment. It's a good time to give it and to give all these reveals. And I think like it's insane how talented Harry's dad really was. It puts into perspective kind of the fact that they all turned into these animals and they were able to like make a map of the entire castle. I think Sirius and James, it's crazy that they kind of wanted to essentially kill Snape, because that was the only way it was really going to go down, if he was like confronted by a werewolf. But Snape was also obviously very racist, so I don't know if it's morally okay what they did. But Sirius seems to, I think he explicitly says he has no regrets about it or something along those lines, whereas obviously we know James changed his mind in the moment, and that explains a lot about the hatred there. And Harry also, he uses the strongest Expelliarmus ever in the movie anyway, when he blows Snape to absolute bits.
I always wonder that, like, it's like Expelliarmus is used to disarm, but all of a sudden Harry's used it to blast someone. Like,
see, I think
absolutely wrecks him. So it is.
I have an explanation for this though, right? Because it like deflects whatever you're holding, right? But if he had Snape in the chest, would it just knock him back?
It deflects his fucking ribcage.
Fair enough. Stephen, how about you? What do you think of the whole big reveal and stuff?
Hands down, this is the best bit of the book for me. I love the whole bit about Lupin and Sirius explaining, how their time at school and how Sirius, James and Peter became animagi, and that Lupin is a werewolf and all the things that he had to do, all the backstory basically about how he wasn't allowed to go. He shouldn't have been going to school, but Dumbledore was pure sound and did all this extra stuff like install the Whomping Willow and all. I love all that. I think it's like really good development for the world and characters who aren't even in the room. I think it's really well done. And then the whole thing about Sirius and Peter switched who was the secret keeper because they thought Lupin might be the spy and everything. Really good, like really interesting plot points. Why he went and tried to kill him and everything. It just wraps the whole mystery up really well, I think, and ties everything all together. Even like stuff like you were saying from other books where like Hagrid gets his bike from this, which he mentions in the first book that Sirius Black lent it to him and stuff. So I think it's really, like Michael was saying, really well plotted, really well done. And all the stuff about Snape being a wee greasy wee, snake who was watching him and everything, and yeah. And then I think isn't he wearing the invisibility cloak to like spy on them here as well, which is just it's really good again. And then obviously Lupin turns into a werewolf, and they have that whole bit, and Wormtail escapes. I think one thing that we didn't touch on, but it's sort of revealed here as well, is that so James, Peter, Lupin, and Sirius are the Marauders who created the map, who are Moody, Wormtail, Padfoot, and Prongs, which is what they call themselves when they're transformed. I think it's really interesting detail that this map crops up again, and the creators are here and stuff, and Snape sort of knows, and all the rest of it. Just really nicely, everything's tied together.
Yeah, it's mad that just to bring up, like, it's mad that like Harry's dad, like, he had the invisibility cloak and he had the Marauders map. Like, these are like two of the most powerful items you could possibly fucking have. Like, and now Harry has them. And then
it's a small thing that you might miss, like, if you weren't paying attention or if you haven't read it 50 times, like me. Hermione keeps bringing up how Hogwarts is unplottable, which means that you can't map it out and you can't teleport to it and all this other stuff. But somehow they were able to do it, which just shows that they're like really knowledgeable and stuff. Like, it's a nice wee detail. There's loads of
the fact they could turn into the animals too probably helped them a lot with that.
And the fact that they figured out how to do that, which is supposed to be really complicated as well.
And you're supposed to they kept it a secret, but you're supposed to reveal it.
There's only like 9 or something registered.
Something like that, yeah. It's so there's wee details like that in this book that I just really love, like wee small things that just enhance it so much. So yeah, love this chapter. Love every bit of it.
Jason, how about you?
There's just a lot of payoff really in this section and the sort of final section after it, which we're about to get to. Just Michael and Stephen and yourself, I've been saying, it's just all these little tiny details which do actually lead to something. I don't really think there's anything that's left sort of open or unanswered. Maybe there is, but I feel like there's a lot of just tiny wee things that just do actually have quite satisfying reveals and conclusions to them, like the animagus and the werewolf, like, just everything, and the sort of the reveal of who the traitor was, who the spy was, Peter Pettigrew. The Marauders map even sort of, I think there was like a very subtle mention about, like, there was like 7 ways to get to Hogsmeade, and like they mentioned like 3 of them Filch knew about, and one of them was a swan, and one of them was the Wampum Willow. Like, even that was sort of mentioned at the stage where Fred and George are giving Harry the map. I'm nearly certain. It's just like we blink and you miss it, essentially, moments that do actually have this sort of satisfying reveal. It was quite good for me. I think this is a very strong end. I think with the book, as I sort of said, I think it's a very slow start for me, but I think the end it's a very strong end. It's up there with some of the best writing in the whole series. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, it's definitely all go towards the end of this book. Like, there's like a lot of setup throughout the book, and then it's just all payoff at the end. There's another thing too, I like, in my own opinion, is like my favourite bit of it is like the thing that, like, Sirius Black is, the whole book is like seen as this villain or this scary monster, and then all of a sudden this just like 30 seconds to 60 seconds of reveal where it's like he has basically been the only one that has known that he's innocent the whole time. Even Lupin, his best friends, thought that he did it at one stage, and then just a small point of like Peter Pettigrew being alive was enough to convince Lupin that it was actually the other way about. But just like you go from like Sirius Black being this bad character to this like being probably the most likable character in the whole thing, like what he went through and stuff. I just think that's just such a great, just 60-second transformation, like, on a character.
There's that, and then he is still a wee bit dark because he's like, right, get out of my way now, I'm going to commit the murder that I was in prison for. And I was like, fuck.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's absolutely snapping, like.
Oh yeah, fact, like, but this Stark's for, kids' book, essentially.
Yeah. To be fair, like, Harry wanted to kill Sirius, but then when he finds out it wasn't Sirius and that it was Peter, he doesn't want to kill Peter. He wants to like get proper justice. So like, it's like Harry changed this tune as well.
Yeah.
It's another arc for Harry too. Yeah. that he was so angry and so in favor of vengeance, and now he is like, he's kind of changed his view on it.
I think him finding out about his father and stuff has made him a bit like feel like I want to be a better person as well, and like put away this pettiness and stuff or this revenge that he wants. And yeah, obviously I think Harry's probably more happy about this situation, because either way, like, Harry's parents were murdered by somebody or like portrayed by somebody, but he's probably happier now that he has like a godfather that's actually, you know, as close to a father that he's going to ever get. Like, he's got this moment of happiness almost, Harry. Okay, so I'm going to just wrap up now in this last bit. There is a lot to get through, but I'd like to just cover this here in one thing, because I think we can talk about it all together. I mentioned Sirius turns into the dog and is fighting Lupin the werewolf, and then Lupin, or the werewolf, gets like distracted by calls from the forest or whatever and runs away, and then Sirius has actually been injured, and he basically heads or lumps down to like the lake, or like a lake in the forest, and then it starts getting very cold and stuff, and it turns out that the Dementors are actually on their way. It's like Harry's down trying to, like, you know, Harry runs down to basically try and save him or whatever, and doing a Patronus and drives the Dementors away, but there's like so many of them that like he has absolutely no chance, and that the Dementors basically are going to perform this kiss, which is the Dementors kiss, which is basically them sucking out your soul, which is supposed to be this worse than death kind of situation. But basically then Sirius is unconscious, and Harry actually goes unconscious as well. Just before Harry goes unconscious, he sees this bright form of a stag, and then it kind of fades out, and Harry's taken up to the hospital essentially along with Hermione and Ron. Ron's leg was mangled and stuff, and then Sirius is taken up to the castle. They put in like a cell to await this bad fate of this Dementor's kiss. So in there in the hospital, they basically are like, oh, Sirius is going to be killed and stuff, or, you know, sentenced to death and all. And Dumbledore comes in and has a word with them, and basically says that Hermione, you know more or less what they do. You need to use the device that you've been using all year to get to all your classes.
Use the MacGuffin.
So this is where we get the...
Use the MacGuffin device. The
Yeah, so basically it turns out that Hermione has been able to attend all of her classes all year, and, you know, do all that mad stuff that Ron has been questioning her about the whole year, because she was given a time turner by Professor McGonagall at the start of the year. So this is essentially a device that can turn back time, so she can go back and like go to classes that, you know, were on at the same time as another class, so she can attend multiple classes. So basically her Dumbledore says you can go back and you could save more than one person if you go back, so it's a wee hint at what's coming. So they basically head back in time to like just the point where they were on their way to Hogwarts before. So it's just Ron's legs broken or whatever, or tore to bits, so he doesn't go. It's Ron and Hermione, or Harry and Hermione go here. So they go back in time and they go down to the first place was Hagrid's, where them three were, and then when the three of them back in time head away, and the Executioner and Dumbledore or McNair, Dumbledore and the Master of Magic come down to carry out Buckbeak's sentence. They go into Hagrid's hut to basically, you know, read all the final rites or whatever, all the political stuff, and then Harry and Hermione are able to free Buckbeak. So this is one of the lives that they're able to save. So they free Buckbeak and take him into the forest, and then the next thing they have to do is basically wait for the people, Ron himself and Hermione, like the previous them, to go into under the Wampum Willow and go do that whole thing on the Shrieking Shack and then come out on the other side. So they wait for that, and then that all happens, and then they see the werewolf fighting with Sirius Black, and then Hermione, I think, shouts at it to like distract it, and then it like comes at them. And I think the book doesn't really have the, like, they just get away then, but I think in the movie, don't they have the whole confrontation with the werewolf and then Buckbeak saves him? And that doesn't happen in the book, doesn't it? Not?
No,
I don't think so.
No.
We don't see Lupin again. He just fucking runs off.
Yeah, he just heads off. Yeah, so I think they basically then Harry sees then Sirius lumping away and knows that himself, he went, like his past self went down to Sirius. So Harry goes down, and Harry, there's this like Harry before he fainted, and he's like telling Hermione this earlier that he's seen someone casting a Patronus, so that was the stag or what that he seen, and that he basically thinks that it was his dad. And Hermione's like, how can it be your dad and all? And he's like, yeah, no, he's dead, but he's just what I saw. But Harry was obviously, about to faint and stuff, so he couldn't really get a good glimpse of him. So then Harry now is like, geez, if I go down to that same spot, I'll be able to see my dad. So he heads down, and then he waits, and he sees him and Sirius getting, the life sucked out of them by these Dementors. And Harry's like, here, my dad's about to appear. And then no one appears, and Harry then realizes that it wasn't his dad, it was actually himself. So back in time. So he goes out and he casts an absolute belter of a Patronus and drives all the... And the movie, this is one of the best parts, where he just absolutely screams at the top of his lungs. Like, casts a mad Patronus, something that's well beyond what he should be capable of. And he drives all the Dementors away, basically stopping them from performing the kiss at this moment. I think that gets implied they were about to do it here. But then they're going to do it later now, because Sirius is taken up to the castle to be up imprisoned there until the Dementors can come up and regroup and come perform the kiss. So then Harry and Hermione take Buckbeak and go up to the cell where they are keeping Sirius, and they're able to free him. And basically there was talks of Sirius was going to ask Harry to come live with him just before Peter got away, because they were going to obviously exonerate Sirius. Unfortunately, that can't be the case now, because without Peter, they can't actually prove that Sirius is innocent. Although they know it, no one else knows it, especially people like Snape, who absolutely hate Sirius, is the one that's egging on people to try and get this Dementor's kiss performed against them. So they give Sirius Buckbeak and set him on his way, and he's away. So then Harry, Hermione head back to basically where they are, back to the hospital. And just as Dumbledore is leaving the room, and he's like, I always like the bit in the movie where he's like just talking to them as they're about to go back in time, and then he closes the door and turns around, and then they're there. So it's like, for Dumbledore, that all happened in 5 seconds, where the whole problem was solved. Just madness. And then they basically have to be back to where they were when they went back in time, because we'll maybe get onto the thoughts of everyone with the power of time, but it's like, turning back time is supposed to be, obviously it's thought to be very powerful, like you could do anything, you could go back and save someone, but it's like, the whole way it's described here is anyone that messes with time is doomed, you're messing with something that's well beyond our comprehension, so you shouldn't be messing with it. So it's like, yeah, you can't be seen or anything, and you have to be back here exactly at the time he's disappeared, so that whenever someone comes, not whenever they find out that Sirius is missing, they come back and it's almost, you never actually left this room. So yeah, that's basically, then they come back and yeah, they're like, yeah, it couldn't have been Ron, Harry, or Hermione, they couldn't have been the ones they did unless they were in the hospital the whole time. But yeah, basically Harry, it then goes, the final chapter is Harry heading home on the train, and Harry gets a letter from Sirius that basically explains that he's out hiding somewhere, but he can't tell anything in case the letter's intercepted. But he also gives Harry then a signed permission form for Hogsmeade, which is a nice wee touch then. So that means Harry can attend Hogsmeade then in the future. And that's really the end of the book. So what did you think about this closing bit? I know I went through a lot there, but yeah, I think the main thing is the whole time turner stuff. So yeah, I'll go to you first, Michael.
Yeah, I thought I really enjoyed the aspect of the story that it is like a double climax. It's like you get the ending, and then it goes through it again. I've really enjoyed that. It felt very satisfying to have that all resolved then in that way. Introducing time travel to a story is obviously, it can be a universe breaking thing, and it can bring about plot holes, and people will often say, how can time travel work at all if the effect is happening before the cause. I do think there is a possibility to explain it if you involve multiple universes and stuff, but I think the main problem with the time turner is that it's not used in the future of the series when it's probably one of the most powerful items. And I think it's also the fact that McGonagall just gave this to Hermione for her studies when it's profoundly dangerous and extremely powerful. It feels a bit strange to have done that. But overall, I enjoyed this, and I loved Harry getting his arc fulfilled by being the hero and blasting away the Dementors. And it's kind of symbolic of the fact that not only is he taking responsibility and realizing that he has to solve his own problems, but it's also the fact that if he can cast such a powerful Patronus, he's conquered his demons a bit. He's able to put them aside enough to put the positive thoughts together to, channel what he needs to channel. I think it's a very satisfying ending to the story. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think the ending is really good.
Yeah, I agree. Like the point you made there, it's funny. Like that Hermione was given such a powerful item. We know later in the series, like that's Voldemort like is hunting down a certain powerful artifact. I'm like, to be honest, if this time turner existed, this would be what he was after. Like, but I guess you could explain it off as being like even. Fair enough. Yeah. So there's another thing that J.K. Rowling says. I guess like the explanation.
Basically,
the explanation.
Basically, in the events of the fifth book where they're in the Ministry, they go under the time room and they cause loads of stuff to be destroyed, which is all the time turners, apparently.
Fair enough. So there's multiple of these. I thought like it's basically saying that like Voldemort's even smart enough to know not to mess with time. But yeah, cool. Stephen, we'll go on to you then. What do you think about this ending?
Yeah, I like it. It's not as strong as the last bit, obviously. It's a bit of a weaker ending, maybe. But then them revealing everything and whatever. But I think it was fine. I do like the way when they go. I do like the time turner as an object. That it's. You don't really see the bad effects that can happen from it, but it's the fact that it's like so heavily stressed that if you mess with time, bad things are going to happen, and that's enough of an explanation for me as to why not everybody uses it all the time. I think I'm fine with that, maybe, but I can't see why it's annoying. Like, why, for example, why now could they not just go back to like? I think there's a really good. Is it what do you call that YouTube series? How it should have ended,
is it? Yeah.
Yeah, where they do this one, but instead, so at the very end, Snape just turns back the 1920s or something.
Voldemort was a baby, or like an orphanage, and Avada Kedavra him or something.
So why couldn't they have just done that? But then maybe there's more things that we don't know about. Like maybe you can only go back a day or something. Yeah. And is that hinted at because Hermione says like. She talks about how she like misses a class where she's like asleep and she misses it and she's like, oh no, and like Ron and stuff knows that she's missed it and says it there, so she can't now go back and do it again because so maybe it's sort of hinted at that you can only go back so far or something like that. It's a mystery artifact, so I'm kind of okay with it. Saving Sirius I think is really well done. I like when they go to the past and it's sort of all the weird stuff. Oh well, they sort of just watch all things that happen, and they save Buckbeak, and while they're also like running away from Hagrid's hut and everything. So I think it's really well written. Then the whole thing about them going to the hospital, or the whole thing about like the Dementors showing up and Harry seeing his dad potentially and stuff, which is just good. It's just another bit to keep you interested. You're expecting to see his dad and stuff, but in fact he just ends up doing this massive, amazing bit of magic, which I think is better. But of course, there's a bit of sadness too because Harry was expecting to go back to live with Sirius instead of the Dursleys, which is kind of mad when you think about it because this guy's supposed to be like a murderer who's on the run, and he would rather go with him than. Yeah. Is that not? So yeah,
this man is known for about 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's how bad they are. So yeah, I do think it's a good ending. Maybe not the strongest ending of the series, but I do like how the whole plot is resolved and wrapped up in a nice wee package.
Very good. Jason?
I mean, I didn't really have much more to add. The biggest thing I probably want to touch on was about Harry going from wanting to kill Sirius to wanting to move in of him in the space of like an hour.
Yeah.
But I actually did. I found it quite bittersweet that I couldn't.
Yeah.
Because obviously Sirius is on the run and still being framed for the murder of Peter Pettigrew. I quite like the Time Turner stuff. I think it's a fairly strong end to the book, personally. I like when he Kamehameha's all the Dementors away with the stag. With his dad's Patronus, or with the Patronus looking like his dad's animagus. No, I thought it was fairly strong end to the book. Definitely
good stuff. Yeah, like I absolutely loved the ending too. I really like the stuff with the time. I thought it was, although like it's always weird when time gets people bringing time to things. I feel like it fits well in the Wizarding world because everything's all magic anyway. So I feel like it's in the right place. But yeah, I think that's everything we have for the book. So I guess we can, if anyone that's just first, does anyone have anything else to say, or before we move on to Star
Just
Wars?
about Snape. He's a white snake, isn't he? Like, like at the end,
he's one letter away from being a snake.
he knows at the end. Well, sort of. The explanation that they give him is perfect as to why Sirius is like innocent, and he also knows that Wormtail was the spy. He knows that because he also was a spy. Did you find it later on? So it's like he's known the whole time that Sirius is innocent, basically, right? But he's still an absolute dick, right? And then he goes so far because he sort of doesn't get what he wants. He then tells everybody that Lupin's a werewolf, which means Lupin has to resign. And it's like, how can anybody like this man? Do you know? I don't get it.
I'm with you, Stephen.
I think one thing none of us have mentioned, because we've already said this so many times and we don't need to mention it, but obviously this was narrated by Stephen Fry. He done a fantastic job yet again.
100%.
That's enough said. Moving on. Yeah, we've already talked at length about Stephen Fry, and I think all the listeners are aware of where we stand. Apart from Jason. Jason hits him when he does hit chiggers, but
Aye, I'm not a Stephen Fry fan.
Right, moving on then to our star rating. Because I am the master of ceremonies here, I'm going to reserve myself until last and go to you again first, Michael.
So I give Chamber of Secrets last year a 4 for a moderate positive. I gave the Philosopher's Stone a 5 for a love, and I have said that this book I think is the strongest one so far. So that probably already reveals what I'm going to give this, but I just think this book is incredibly well plotted. We've talked at length about how well the foreshadowing is. I think the characters that this introduces are phenomenal. I think the plots, the A, the B, the C plot, all coalesce and come together in a really satisfying way to tell a great tale. I think this is probably one of the easiest and Harry Potter books to revisit, and I think it's one of the ones every time I would revisit the series would look forward to. It's like I get to go to Prisoner of Azkaban next, you know. It's one I look forward to. So I am going to give this a 5.
Yeah, no surprises there. Yeah, I think you've already revealed your thing earlier when you said you think this is the strongest so far. Yeah, cool. Stephen?
I don't want to touch on the scores that I gave before, because my view on the scores changes all the time, right? But I do think this one is better than the last two, for sure. I think, I'm just going to say, it's 4.5. I don't think it's quite a 5, because I know what's coming, right? And I don't want to rate them all the same, sort of thing. So I would say 4.5. I just everything I've said already, the plot is just so well done. Like Michael was saying, it's so well plot. I can't remember what word you used, but mapped out basically.
Plotted. He said the plot was plotted.
Did he say that? See, I didn't want to say that.
I said it was a very well plotted book.
Oh, did you? Right. Well, it's just very well mapped out, and everything is so tight. You know, there's no loose ends, or not loose ends, but no fluff. Everything has a purpose, and I really like it.
Yeah.
It's not my favorite book in the series, but it is good. I do like it. 4.5.
Jason?
As I touched on at the sort of start, I still enjoyed the book. Don't get me wrong. I was probably slightly disappointed. I thought I would have enjoyed it more, but overall, I still had a good time. I think slow starts. I think there were some things during it that annoyed me and I had issues with, but I think overall it was good. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5.
Fair. For myself, yeah, I can actually mirroring what Stephen says. I really, really love this book, enjoyed it, but it's not my favourite of all the Harry Potter books. I've only read / listened to the first 4, so it's actually the 4th one, and the 4th one's actually my favourite movie as well. There's a couple wee things I wasn't a fan of, like I mentioned in this book, was the whole Hermione basically barely getting any screen time until near the end, with the whole fighting with Ron and all. I didn't really like that, and I thought there was a bit too much Quidditch as well, or too much focus on Quidditch here. I did enjoy the stuff with Wood being so into the Quidditch and all, and just being absolutely loving and how much he goes on about it. And I thought it was funny, but yeah, there's just a wee bit too much about the Quidditch for me. So I wouldn't say this book's perfect, but yeah, I really enjoyed it, so I'm going to give it a 4.5. So we'll move on to comparisons to other media. We've obviously probably done this comparison already before in the previous 2 books. I just want to bring up one thing. Isn't there like talks of a HBO show for Harry Potter coming up?
They're doing the whole thing.
Yeah, so that's one thing that's definitely new media to be spoke about. Be interesting to see, especially HBO doing that. Like,
do you know, I was thinking about this, right? This TV show. It's obviously going to be good, right? Because it's HBO and it's Harry Potter, right? I don't think they can miss. I don't think it's possible unless they do Game of Thrones season 6. Well, what was it, season 7 and 8? Don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't go that way.
The plot's already written out for them.
That's
so
the thing. So the plot's already there, and they can show all these things that we're talking about that weren't included in the film, which seems really good. But part of me wonders why they're doing it, because the films are so widely recognised as being like near perfect, right?
Money.
Well, money. But why aren't they doing the Marauders TV show? I think that would be such a better idea.
Yeah.
I'll be good.
Because like you could tie that into like the war and everything and whatever, but I don't know. Fuck.
Yeah, I feel like there's so much other stuff that could be built out. Like they don't need to go near this again.
Yeah, it's obviously about money, like. But if they don't go back then after the fact, I think that's going to be a mess.
So I think one thing I want to finish on just before we end the Harry Potter discussion is the curse of the podcast. So we've brought this up in last year, where after our first episode, or while we were reading the book of the first episode, Robbie Coltrane, the actor who plays Hagrid, died. And then last year, just as we were preparing for Chamber of Secrets and we were reading the book, Michael Gambon, the actor who plays Dumbledore from the 3rd movie up until the 7th, also died. And then this year, we were reading Prisoner of Azkaban, preparing for this episode, and Maggie Smith, who plays Professor McGonagall, died. So we have come to the conclusion that we are actually a curse, and yeah, so hopefully next year we can get through Goblet of Fire before someone dies and break the curse. But right now we are a curse podcast, so
yeah.
Okay, I think that's Harry Potter discussion. So what else are we consuming? I'll go first here and just quickly give mine. I have been watching, I've almost finished the Fallout TV show. Absolutely loving it. It's so much more bloody than I thought it was going to be. Like, I thought it was going to be more child friendly almost, because it is like a game, but I know the game is an 18 game or 16 or whatever it is, but yeah, I think it's very got similar kind of blood stuff as, you know, like The Boys. I guess obviously because it's an Amazon Prime original. But yeah, it's just like, I think there's like a scene where she gets her finger cut off and it just, you see the full like spurt of blood coming out. Oh, that's fucking brilliant. But yeah, good show. I was back on the Pokemon train there for a while.
Same.
Was playing Ultraviolet, which is like a fire red hack, which like, you know, lets you get all the Pokemon. So like it adds like a few extra bits and stuff. And like lets you, like, you know, for the ones that need traded, you can like just level them up to like a certain level and they'll evolve. But yeah, very good. It's good to actually
like that.
Actually, yeah, it's just like like a ROM or whatever. But it's yeah, you get lots of these different like versions and stuff that actually let you, so you can complete the Pokedex and all. So the thing that ever annoyed me about Pokemon was like, you could never complete it unless you like freaking, because like some of the Pokemon you could only get at like certain events that like were held once, and then you could never get it again. Which was, I thought,
you have to trade and stuff too.
Yeah,
just to wind me up.
But yeah,
it's annoying.
Yeah, the Pokemon train, good crack. Yeah, I've been reading a book. I have been reading or listening to another audiobook. It's called Blood, Sweat and Pixels: The Triumph, Turbulent Stories Behind Video Games, or How Video Games Are Made. Sorry, I was a while in my filler. So basically it's like, it has like, I think about eight or 9 chapters, and each chapter's like a game. So like I had Witcher 3's in there, Stardew Valley, Diablo 3, Dragon Age, and Inquisition. So they basically go through these 9 different stories of how these video games were made and like the challenges and stuff they faced. And like, you know, like you get delays in games, and like you'll get like producers and all like freaking breathing down your neck and all, but like, get this game out in the next month, and then you're like, no, we're going to need 5 more months, or there's this issue or that. That's kind of shows you how hard it is to make a video game. But it's absolutely brilliant. Like, I possibly might recommend it on this show at some stage, but that might not be for another few recommendations, which could be at least a year. So I would recommend, yeah, I know you all are good on the games and stuff, so I would definitely recommend it, or anyone else to read it. But it's absolutely brilliant. So I've been listening to that as my audiobook outside of what I've been listening to for this podcast. But yeah, that's kind of high level for me. So, Michael, what about you? What are you consuming?
Yeah, I've read 3 other books between now and the last time we recorded. The Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix, who's a horror comedy writer I was talking about last time. The book is just what it sounds like. It's all the final girls who've like survived horror ordeals, all in a support group together, and they start getting targeted again. It was a really fun read, and Grady Hendrix is definitely an offer I am going to continue to check out because I've really enjoyed what I've read so far. I read a book called The Door to December, which is a Dean Koontz book. It's the first time I've read anything by Dean Koontz, and it may possibly be the last time. The book wasn't terrible, but I just didn't do much for me, to be honest. It felt kind of shallow, and I just didn't like his writing style that much. And it also felt, I don't know enough about autism to know if it was offensive, but it felt vaguely offensive about autism, the depiction of it. But it was written in 1985, so I suppose I just didn't know as much then. And I read a book that's been described as TikTok's favourite horror book, which is The Troop by Nick Cutter. I read this book having no idea what it was about, and I thought that it was absolutely fantastic. I absolutely loved this book. It was so horrifying. It was so gruesome. It's just like, if anybody's read the Lord of the Flies, I would describe it as like Lord of the Flies horror. I think there's even a line from Lord of the Flies that pays tribute to it at the start of before the book goes on, so it's very aware of that. I don't actually recommend books that much in my real life, but my friend, Stephen's friend as well, Kieran Dunn, he's a big fan of the Lord of the Flies. I might remember him telling me so, and he also loves horror. So I messaged him about The Troop, and I said that he would love this book, and it was like 5 minutes later he messaged me back saying he bought it on Amazon. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he thinks about that book, but I thought it was terrific, so spooky, and maybe one day we'll cover it on the podcast, but it was just really, really good book. But that's about it. I've been I listen to a lot of podcasts, a lot of new stuff, a lot of stuff's been in my head, and yeah, just too much to talk about. I also wanted to say on the podcast that I got a cat. The reason I wanted to bring it up on the Harry Potter episode is because we gave it a name after Harry Potter character, one that has not been introduced in the series yet, but we called her Bellatrix because she is a little bitch.
How's she doing?
Yeah, good. She was very sick when we got her. She was like abandoned by her mother and stuff, and she was a very tiny kitten with like conjunctivitis and all these health issues and stuff, and there was a vet trip, and she's grown a lot more, and the conjunctivitis has cleared, and she seems to be doing a lot better, and they seem to grow very quickly. But yeah, just wanted to mention that as well.
Well, if you see her chasing a rat, fucking stay away from that rat. Do not bring it under your bed.
Stomp on that rat. First day.
But yeah, that's about it for me. There is a lot of stuff I was consuming, but I don't want to talk about too much because we've already been recording for some.
Yeah, cool. That seems, even from what you've said there, it's still a good amount. What about you, Stephen? What have you been consuming?
It's not as much as you would think. I haven't had a lot of time this last month or so. My second born has eaten a lot of time. It's actually my firstborn that's eaten all the time because I'm sort of looking after her while Sarah looks after Thomas. So yeah, it's good. But I'm still fully addicted to the new World of Warcraft expansion, The War Within. It's returned to form. They've outdone themselves again. It's great. I wouldn't recommend it because you'll get addicted. The new Dragon Ball game came out, Sparking Zero. It's like the spiritual successor to the Budokai games that we used to all play. So I've been playing that a bit, though I've kind of put it down because I don't think my PC's powerful enough to run it, and it stutters at times and it's a bit annoying, so I might wait until they've patched it because it's only just out, so I'm anticipating some performance patches, and or when I get a new PC, which I'm planning to like start building a new one soon. So I'm gonna build a PC, I guess.
It's decided now.
It's decided, yeah. Slow Horses Season 4, my favourite show that I talk about every podcast.
Speaking of stinking Gary Oldman.
Right off. See, it's whole time. It's season 4. Again, another cracker season. Would absolutely recommend the show. And then me and Sarah have been watching Big Brother, which is just like a guilty pleasure show for us. So it's really good this year. And that's everything, really.
Yeah, that's, I mean, for having a newborn child, you've still been getting through a good bit, it seems.
Not really, though. I mean,
not as much as you'd want, I guess.
All I did a couple of fights in Sparking Zero, and then it was all at like midnight. And then
squeeze on any time.
I watched the 2 episodes of Dynamite while I was making Molly food. Slow Horses and Big Brother we watch after they've gone to bed, so
yeah, you get those 1 or 2 hours of time before you have to go to bed.
The good times, yeah.
The good times before you have to be woken up then again.
Yeah.
Cool.
Tough life.
Yeah, tough.
It's a hard life.
Jason, how about you? What have you been up to?
I was back in Derry last week and met wee baby Thomas and Stephen, obviously, and Sarah and Molly.
And now you're his godfather. Another time back. Don't be killing me.
Aye, so Stephen's asked me to be godfather.
So it's a better appointment than Harry got, I guess.
Well, let's see, here's hoping anyway. Don't betray me, alright?
Let's, I haven't murdered anyone
you
yet.
You aren't planning to divulge Stephen's location to Lord Voldemort, are you?
We'll see. I've also been playing some Sparking Zero. It's been a good time. Played maybe a bit more than Stephen, but probably not loads either. And I think I mentioned this last time, I'm just reading through it and I have like 150 pages left, so almost there. It's a lengthy ass book, but it's enjoyable. Not really been up to much. So I went to cinema last night and seen The Apprentice, the new Sebastian Stan film where he plays Donald Trump in the 70s and 80s. It was really quite good. I would recommend.
I never even heard about that, but it sounds good.
It's very good. It's called The Apprentice, as I say. It's about sort of Donald Trump, his master essentially, who was an absolute evil dickhead lawyer called Roy Cohn, played by Jeremy Strong from Succession. It was a very good film. I would highly recommend.
Very good. Okay, plugs then. Just the usual for me. I've actually been released a few more blogs on my for work and stuff. So my blog channel will be linked below, and I haven't done anything on the YouTube one, but there's still videos on there, so that'll be linked as well. Michael, any plugs from you?
Yeah, if you're listening to this episode in 2025 by any chance, we will be releasing a new podcast at that stage. What's the crack with albums? We'll have the links below, but if we're just basically me, Jonathan, and my partner Greta are talking about albums, and we're doing it a week-to-week show, but in seasons. So season 1 is going to have 21 episodes. We'll be releasing those week to week from starting. I think the first one comes out on the 5th of January, and yeah, we'll be releasing them until we get the entire first season out, and then we'll be taking a short break to start recording with season 2.
Can I special
I've also
guest
been
on that
I've been
Can I be a special guest on that one at some point?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, of course you can. I'll write to you about it. Sure, we can see what you want to come on for, or if you want to recommend an album, or
we'll interview you and see if you're appropriate.
We'll vet you. I've been practicing narration for like the past few months. I read it again, but I read it out loud in its entirety. And I have to tell you, doing Bill's stutter was an absolute nightmare. But
Jesus.
No. But I just picked the longest book I could think of to get as much practice as I could think of, and I'm gonna start recording now. I think I've leveled up a bit with my ability to kind of, because I wanted to get better at it and take it a bit more seriously, because previously I'd been recording things and I'd be like, just do it however and wing it and see how it turns out and stuff. And now I'm kind of like, nah, I want to do like a good job. So I'm going to go back and release all of my Soulbonder. I'm going to release that in 2025 as well. And then I'm going to record my other book, and that'll probably be the second half or a bit further into 2025. But we're going to try and get that out in the same year as well. So that's my goal, to have those 3 new podcasts in that next year, and also get the extra episodes of the audiobook club in addition to that. So if I could do that, I'd be happy with that.
So you're saying you have managed to reread it in the time it's taken me, and not even finished it.
Michael's a machine butt when it comes to reading.
I must be Jesus.
Stephen?
Nah, Michael's podcast that I'm going to be on. Or you,
Michael's
you and Michael's podcast?
our podcast. Okay, cool. We'll stick the link to Stephen's episode in our podcast.
I'll write to you, Stephen, and we'll get that arranged.
Yeah, sounds fun.
Cool. Jason, what about you? Any plugs?
I would like to plug my NHS job, which I have to get up for in 6 hours' time because it's almost midnight on a Sunday night.
Okay, good stuff. Consider plugged and message received. Okay, I think that'd be me. Done with the hosting duties then. That's us done with our annual Harry Potter episode. So we'll go on to pass it over to Michael now, who will be giving his next pick, and then that'll be us.
Just before I do that real quick, I just want to say this is our podcast, 2 years old now, and I want to say a massive thank you to the listeners. Don't know if anybody is that interested in like podcast stats or something, but we're almost up to like 6 digits listeners. We're not very far, and I don't think any of us anticipated it getting to that point within only 2 years. You know, it's and I just want to thank everybody who's downloaded the podcast or recommended it or consumed it in any way. You know, it's really nice to have this, and we appreciate you for listening. If you ever want to have an audiobook covered or anything, our email is in the description, the audiobook club podcast @gmail.com. If you send in a voice link or anything, we can include it in the podcast. If you want to give a reason why you picked the book or anything, it might be something we do eventually. But just wanted to say thank you.
And write in, just write in about anything.
Yeah, could be anything as well. Yeah. So anybody who's a regular listener to this show will know that last year, I think it was October time, was it? Or possibly September. One of those, around that time anyway, we covered The Shining by Stephen King, and I had hinted that I would probably pick one Stephen King book per year, and you will have noticed that we have not covered a Stephen King book yet, and this will be the last book of the year. So I have decided to pick a Stephen King book. I was thinking about Pet Sematary, and I've been building it up for a while because I said I can't wait, because I anticipated a couple of people would hate that book, and I was ready to go to war. But
name names.
But I think you would hate it, Stephen, and I don't know which of Jonathan or Jason would have hated it, but I would have expected one of them to. But we'll see. We'll leave Pet Sematary for some other time. I wanted to go less horror. For some reason, I think it's just because I've read so much horror this year. I wanted to cover something less horrible on the podcast, and I also wanted something I really like our anthology episodes, like the one we did with The Last Wish or Norse mythology, where there's lots of little stories to talk about. Stephen King has lots of novella collections and short story collections, so I wanted to go that angle. And I also like when we have a movie to watch. So the one that I picked was kind of influenced by that. So the one that I have picked is Different Seasons by Stephen King. So that's the one that we're reading, the audiobook narrated by Frank Muller. So we are going to be talking about, that's a collection of 4 novellas. So we'll be talking about all of those. And there's also, I actually didn't realize there's actually 3 movies.
There's 3.
Yeah. So if you want to watch the movies as well, we'll be talking about those as well. The movies are The Shawshank Redemption, Stand By Me, and Apt Pupil. So we'll be reading the stories and talking about those movies on the next episode.
Cool. I guess with that, we'll say
Cheers, Jeff.
goodbye and good night.
Catch you on the flippity flop.
Yeah. Flippity. I'm tired. Let's go to bed.
Sláinte.